welcome to our 136 weekly webcast. So I'm going to give you all the course that I'm most proud of for free in a minute. Now, the way this call works is for 15 to 20 minutes, I discuss the most important and interesting business news topics from the past week and how you can use the news to enhance your career or invest better. Then what I'll do is this. After 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to spend the rest of this 3-hour call talking about your questions. I'll take all your questions, and I'll give away my $999 MBA degree product to one person on this call, and I'll explain how you can win this very, very soon. Now, over the past 136 weekly YouTube webcasts and the many MBA office hours and Q&A sessions I've had, I've actually answered more than 10,000 questions live here on YouTube. It's been a lot of fun. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could type your question and I could immediately answer it based on my 10,000 questions answered? So here's what I want to do. I want to introduce you to a new free product of mine called Power Search, which I think you're going to enjoy. So the way that Power Search works is if you go to my website, harounventures.com, you'll see the Power Search is here, and I also have it over here in the About section. Let me go to the About section here because I want to give you the free course as well, which is also at this link, Power Search. So the way it works is you type in anything you want, and any video I've made on that topic you can get immediately. And if you have any of my courses, you can access the exact lecture where I talk about that topic. So let's do an example. Let's type in Apple. And I'm going to spell Apple wrong on purpose because I set it up so that the search engine will even correct you because I make a lot of spelling mistakes. So I'm going to type in A-P-L-E, and then I'm going to hit enter here. Okay, great. Then what you'll see here are video answers from Chris, okay? Everything I've said about Apple, for example, going way back, right? There's been a gazillion times people have asked me about Apple. Then there's another tab here, which has MBA Degree Program and course content. So if you were to click here, you'd see how to make Apple's income statement based on a lecture in my MBA Degree Program. And then there's other results as well, including documents I've made on Apple or whatever you search for in terms of course contents. Let's do another one for fun, then I'll move on and show you the free course. Bitcoin, which people have asked me a lot about. So video answers from Chris, the future of Bitcoin, it's endless. There's tons and tons of questions. And you can click these, and then what will happen is, of course, you'll see the video on it. All right. Or you can access where I mentioned Bitcoin in courses, all that great stuff. So I hope you enjoy this. I'm going to continue to enhance it. And we're going to get to the point where it's going to jump immediately directly into that point in certain lectures where I mentioned that key word because I've closed captioned everything. Okay, great. Okay, now let's move on to the news. The best technology investments are platforms where the company does not make what is on the platform. The users do. And I'm going to talk about Roblox as a platform in a second. So the best way to think about it is the best investments are platforms where you own the road and you charge the cars. And I've got this here because whenever I do a Zoom call, I always have to ask people to unmute. And they ask me to unmute as well. All right, moving on. So Facebook is a platform, but they actually don't make any content. eBay is a platform, but they don't sell stuff on their platform. Airbnb is also a platform, but they don't own hotels. And lastly, Uber and Udemy are platforms. Uber doesn't own any taxis, and Udemy doesn't make any courses themselves. Similarly, Roblox is a video game platform that's awesome. My kids love it. But they don't make games themselves on their platforms. Their users do. And this is a staggering statistic. but more than 50% of people in the United States under 16 years old played Roblox over the past year. And it's actually growing like a weed as well. So how do we as investors judge how good a platform like Roblox is? Well, with most investments, there's one or a few major drivers that are most important to understand that move the stock. For oil companies, it's the price of oil and the supply of oil. And for retail stores, it's the growth of how much money each store makes each year, which is called same-store sales. And for many internet companies, investors love to look at a metric actually called daily active users. And they also refer to this as DAU, D-A-U, DAU. And I remember when Snapchat, the CEO founder, was trying to raise money from venture capitalists in the Valley here years ago. And he went to meet with tons of investors. And he just started the company. And a lot of investors were out of touch, older people like me. They said, well, with Snapchat, I don't get it. Like, why would I want to take pictures of my kids and have them disappear? And so people didn't want to invest initially. And then a year or two later, Evan, the founder, came back to Silicon Valley and said, remember me? Yeah, my business model, we have 6 million daily active users. And then all the venture capitalists were saying, oh my God, that's the best business model ever. Right? So it all comes down to DAU, daily active users. And people look at MAU as well, monthly active users. But let me focus more so today on DAU. So Roblox just reported its first quarterly results as a public company. And their DAU, daily active users, was 42 million in the most recent quarter, which is up close to 80% year over year. It's unbelievable growth. So how do we do research on stocks when it comes to the most recent quarter? Well, what we do is we go to sec.gov. And then what you do when you're at SEC, I'll show you the steps really quickly. You select in the top right corner there, more search options. Then you select the ticker. You enter the ticker. And for Roblox, it's RBLX. Then what you do is you select what document you want to open. Now, there's an 8K, which is what it's accounting nerd talk and finance nerd talk for an important press release. A 10Q is the quarterly report. The 10K is the annual report. But we want to open up the 8K, okay, so that we can look to see how earnings were. And so you open it up and you click on it, and you see here, these are earnings for Roblox, the earnings statement. And you click on the press release. Takes a while to get there. And then you can see right here, the average daily active users, okay, the DAU, D-A-U, was 42.1 million, an increase of 79% year over year. Okay, now we know that an 8K means a press release. But before ever investing in an IPO, please do what I'm about to say. We have to read what's called the S1 filing, which is what the investment bankers and lawyers make before the IPO. So let's go back and let's look for the S1. So we'll scroll down a little bit here until we see S1. There it is. You click on Documents, the top link there. I know it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not the most intuitive website, but it works. Then what you do is you search for daily active users. Daily active users. And as you can see at the top there, there's 14 instances of the word daily active users. So we search through it and we see that daily active users, when the company went public earlier this year, daily active users for Roblox grew 47% from 12 million daily active users in 2018 to 18 million in 2019, and then 33 million in 2020. Recall they're now at 42 million, which is amazing. Okay, but what about this? This here is called bookings. What does that mean? I thought that or a lot of people think that when you look at earnings, you just look at revenue and earnings and that's it. No, you look at much more stuff than that. You look at DAU, if it's disclosed by internet companies, and you look also at bookings if it's also disclosed. And so new investors tend to only focus on revenue and earnings, and not on the key drivers like DAO, daily active users. So the other number that investors must look at if it's disclosed is bookings. This is absolutely crucial. Now, what bookings means is revenue from the most recent quarter plus revenue that the company knows that they're going to get next quarter or next year. And so the way it works is this. If you sell 2 products for $10 each this quarter, but you only give one of the $10 products this quarter to your customer, then revenue is $10 and not $20 this quarter. Because you can't recognize revenue until you've actually delivered the product. It's the law. And people go to jail actually for trying to recognize revenue from next quarter and pull it to this quarter. Computer Associates did that last decade, and the founder or the CEO is still in jail in Long Island for doing that. So bookings is revenue plus what you already sold, but you didn't deliver for the next quarter. And this is crucial. And sometimes companies only post okay revenue and earnings, but smart investors look at bookings. And if bookings grew a lot, then the stock goes up a lot despite mediocre revenue and earnings. So let's look at bookings together for Roblox's most recent quarter. So what we're going to do is I'm going back to the press release for the most recent quarter, the 8K. And we see here that revenue increased 140% year over year in the most recent quarter. But what's much more impressive is that bookings grew 161% year over year in the most recent quarter. This number was so good that investors overlooked the not so great earnings result for Roblox from the most recent quarter. So how do we calculate this $652 million bookings from the financial statements of Roblox provided us in this 8K press release? Well, what you do is the first thing is you scroll down in the press release until you get to the income statement, which is here. And then you get the revenue for the most recent quarter, which we can see here was $387 million. Okay, but we're going to calculate bookings. So revenue we get from the income statement was $387. Then what we do is we go to the balance sheet. This is the balance sheet here. And we look at what was deferred revenue, meaning money they got for stuff that they haven't delivered yet. And so we have to look at deferred revenue for the next quarter, meaning the pipeline for next quarter, and then also for after next quarter. And so what we do is we look here at deferred revenue, the current portion, meaning what's coming next quarter, and what's coming after next quarter as well, which is net of the current portion there. This will make sense to you in a second. I have to run through these slides here. So recall that revenue from the income statement was $387 million. Bookings equals revenue of $387 million plus the change in deferred revenue. Let's calculate that. So we see here that deferred revenue in the March of 2021 quarter was $1.295 billion, okay, versus $1.07 billion in the quarter before that, okay, December of last year. And so that's $225 million in bookings. So this is for the next quarter. What about after next quarter, the pipeline after next quarter? Well, we see here that it's actually $44.2 million, which is $528 million minus $484 million. Okay, this is bookings. Really, really important. And so that equals $269.4 million. So bookings is revenue of $387 million plus $269 million of deferred revenue, which is $656 million, which was unbelievable. It blew away all expectations. So again, recall, earnings weren't that great for the most recent quarter for Roblox. But it doesn't matter because some of the more sophisticated investors on Wall Street and globally, they looked at bookings, meaning the pipeline. Okay? All right. So let's now go to the top of the same press release, the earnings press release. And my bookings, I just calculated, was $656.4 million. But in the press release, why is it a little bit lower? It actually shows 652.3 million. That's a difference of $4.1 million. Why am I off? Well, I'm not off because what happens is companies release two sets of financial statements when they report earnings. One of them is GAAP, meaning the accounting stuff. And the other one, which I like better, is non-GAAP, the finance stuff. And I like the non-GAAP earnings that are released and numbers because they only include cash stuff. They don't include stuff that's not cash, like depreciation. And I teach this in much more detail in my MBA degree program. So why is my 4.1 million too high? Well, what happens is in press releases, companies also reconcile the difference between the accounting numbers, GAAP, and the non-GAAP finance numbers, which I like better. And if you scroll down, you'll see that there's a reconciliation table between non-GAAP, right, which is the finance stuff I like, and GAAP. And so you'll see here that the difference here when they reconcile is 4.1 million, which explains the difference between the bookings I calculated and the GAAP and non-GAAP ones. Okay, moving on. So the bottom line is that platforms can be unbelievable investments in the tech sector. Also, with internet companies, you have to look at DAU, daily active users, if they disclose it. And lastly, you always look at bookings if the company discloses it as well. And this will help you understand why sometimes stocks that release earnings that are not so great go up a lot, because sometimes it comes down to DAU being great or bookings being great. And I worked in the hedge fund industry for years, and there is this brilliant man named Dan Benton, and he started this hedge fund called Andor. And I think he just got married to one of the people from the TV show Law and Order. But Dan Benton, he once said ages ago that software companies, or internet companies too, never miss just once. Okay, so if a company misses revenue and earnings, they're probably going to miss bookings as well. And so what happens is this: if a company thinks they're going to miss earnings and revenue numbers, revenue mainly, what they'll do is they'll try their best before the quarter is done to call their customers and say, hey man, I know that I have revenue from you and a product I'm going to deliver to you next quarter. Can I deliver it to you today? Because I really need this to make my numbers. And so if they do that, then they sort of make the quarter, but bookings suck. So you always look at the pipeline, because software companies and internet companies sometimes never miss only once. Now, I want to finish off this discussion with a quote from a man who I think is one of the best investors in history. God bless him, he just passed away, named Art Sandberg. And I worked for him years ago at a hedge fund called Pequot. And he and Dan worked together years ago at Pequot as well. And what Art said was that you never stand in the way of insanity. What does that mean? Well, I remember back in 2006 when I was working at Pequot, a bunch of us were pitching some short ideas in the housing sector. Lennar, ticker LEN, and KBH Homes, ticker KBH. And our thesis was that it was a bubble, and so we wanted to short these stocks. And he said to us very nicely, he said, son, I've been around long enough to know never to stand in the way of insanity. You know, markets peak, markets trough. You cannot time the markets. So I thought that was kind of interesting. All right. The most recent United States jobs report was the biggest miss in history. Let me explain how the Department of Labor reports these numbers and why it matters a lot for investors. So there are two Department of Labor reports when it comes to unemployment numbers. One of them is called the Unemployment Weekly Jobless Claims, and it's released every Thursday before the market opens at 8:30 a.m. New York time. The other report is released monthly on the first Friday of each month before the market opens, and it's called the Jobs Report. Now, let's first talk about the weekly jobless claims number. And so if you go to dol.gov, which means Department of Labor in the United States website, and if you scroll down, what you'll see are press releases. And what we see here is the weekly press release every Thursday, which is the unemployment insurance claims report. Okay, and again, this is released before the market opens, right, at 8:30 a.m. And this is weekly, not quarterly, like when companies report earnings. And so that's a huge deal. It's like if companies reported earnings every week. And this is incredibly important for investors to monitor because you get almost real-time weekly updates on the U.S. economy here. And so once we click on this, it's a 12-page PDF. But the most important thing people look at quickly is just the first sentence, which tells you how many people filed for unemployment benefits for the first time. So we can see in this report here from Thursday, May 6th, that the number is 498,000 people, which was down 92,000 from the week before. And this was the first time claims, unemployment claims, were below 500,000 since the pandemic started. And since the unemployment claims number is released weekly, it has a massive impact on expectations for the second labor report that investors watch, which is called the jobs report, which is released on the first Friday of each month. And so the most recent one was released on Friday, May 7th at 8:30 a.m. New York time. And once you click this link here from May 7th, you'll see, and always focus only on the first sentence as well with this report, you'll see the U.S. economy added 266,000 new jobs in April. And this was a massive, massive miss because investors expected a number of new jobs created in the month of April between 700,000 and 2 million. But they only released 266,000 jobs. So what happened? Why was this the biggest jobs report miss in history? Well, it's partially because the weekly initial jobless claims number dropped a lot, meaning people getting unemployment for the first time went down a lot. Then why was the number of new jobs created so low? Well, we're not going to know for a couple of months until more data comes out. But it could be because of shortages in microchips, which has caused the auto sector to stop producing many cars. It also might be because many schools and daycare facilities are still closed and are not hiring. Or it could be because some people can potentially make more money on unemployment insurance than by working, which friends of mine in the restaurant sector have told me that they're starting to see. And so the bottom line is weekly claims come out every Thursday, and the monthly jobs report comes out on the first Friday of each month. And you can access both reports at dol.gov. Now, recently, let me get some water here, sorry. It's tough doing this live sometimes, man, but it's fun. I like the challenge. All right. So recently, Ethereum hit an all-time high. And I want to talk about how you mine it. And I've been mining Ether, which is the cryptocurrency on the Ethereum platform, on the same computer I built a couple years ago. And it's much easier to do than you think. Okay, and so let me walk through very quickly how to do this. And anybody can do this, okay? But don't spend a penny on anything until you hear me discuss if you can actually mine in your country, meaning if it's profitable and if it's legal. So when you mine Ethereum and many cryptocurrencies, when you build a computer, you start off with a frame. You don't use a big computer box around it because we want these things to stay cool. Then what you do is you buy a motherboard to plug everything into, and I'll show you how in a second. You also buy the cheapest processor, or one of the cheapest processors you can find, and you only get 4 gigs of RAM, and you buy a power source. And most importantly, you buy a graphics card. That's the most important thing. And there's a great website here called PCPartPicker.com, which helps you decide what parts to buy. And it actually makes sure that all the parts work together. And if any of the parts don't work together, right, you select the parts on the left side there. And then once you select them, you can buy them, click through for Amazon. I'm sure they get affiliate revenue. But if any of the pieces or parts don't work together, then up there in that green box, it'll say there's compatibility issues, okay, right here. So once you select your parts, this website here, pcpartpicker.com, this website will tell you the total power used by the parts in wattage, which you can see here. And this needs to be less than the power source you buy. Okay. And you can also search to see if there's completed builds that you can use that people have already made for you for great gaming PCs or for cryptocurrency mining PCs on this website, PC Part Picker. And the biggest caveat, though, is if you can buy a graphics card, which are sold out everywhere. And when you research your graphics card, which is also called a GPU, you have to find out if it's powerful enough to mine Ethereum profitably. And so we go right here to a website called hashrates.com. Okay, and you can see it right here. And those are a bunch of different graphics cards listed on the left side. If you scroll down, there's tons of them there. So we look at what's called the hash rate, which is kind of like when you mine, it tells you how good the axe or pixel is, so to speak, the hash rate. Okay, and let's use the hash rate, for example, here of 48.5. All right, so 48.5, which right here is the hash rate of a graphics card called GeForce RTX 3080. All right, then what you do after you get the hash rate, don't buy anything yet until we find out if it's profitable for you to do it where you live, that meaning mining. Then what you do next is you go to a website called Coin Wars right here. And then you select on mining calculators at the top there. And then you select Ethereum, okay, the mining calculator, see if it's profitable for you, okay. Then what you do is you enter in the hash rate of that graphics card. Okay, so in this case, it's 48.5. Then you select the power consumption in watts. Then the electricity cost, which I'll come back to in a second. So in this case, I put 10 cents. Okay, and that's 10 cents per kilowatt hour. And then there's a pool fee. You never mine Ethereum by yourself. It's just too hard to do. So you do it as part of a pool. And usually you pay a 1% fee. And I'll show you how this works in a second. And then lastly, what you see there is the daily profit that you would make if you had electricity costs at 10 cents. And so if your computer costs you $250 to make, which it never will, it's always more. But hypothetically speaking, if your computer costs you $250 to make, then that means it'll take you 100 days to break even. If it costs you $750 to make, it'll take you closer to a year to break even. All right. So what about the kilowatt cost where you live? So all you do is you go to Google and you type in kilowatt cost, okay, in your state or your country. So let's select Virginia, for example, which is a great state in the United States. And we see the cost of mining in Virginia is about 12 cents. So we enter in 12 cents here, and we see that we're going to make a profit mining of $2.20 per day. All right, cool. Now, what software do you put on your computer? Now, I use Microsoft Windows. You can use Linux if you want to, but I use Windows. And to mine, what you're going to do is you're going to go to a website called nanopool.com. Okay, and here it is here. You select Quick Start. Then you download the mining software. It's really, really easy to do. And then what you do is you start mining. And so right here, here's an example of my mining computer, right? It's Haroun Ventures Miner is what I call it. And you can monitor this in real time if you go to harounventures.com/crypto. And you'll be able to see in real time, lowercase crypto. But right here, you can see that I'm mining. And what happens is once you make enough money, then the Ether, the Ethereum cryptocurrency, is wired to or sent directly to your wallet. And I'll show you in Coinbase in a second. So right here, I'm currently mining, and currently I'm at $231 US. But once I get to 0.2 of an Ether, which will end up being closer to $1,000, whatever, what happens is it'll automatically get sent to me in 2 months approximately, says there. And so what happens is this. It gets sent to me by Nanopool. Okay, they take a 1% fee. It gets sent directly to my public key, right? And the public key is kind of like your email address. Your email address is your public key. Your password for your email account is your private key. You never give that away. But it gets sent here to my public key here on Coinbase. So that's how mining works. Let's talk about why the EU and governments hate cryptocurrencies. So this week, the head of the European Central Bank said that cryptocurrencies have no intrinsic value and that you should be prepared to lose all your money if you buy cryptos. And the head of the Bank of England actually said the same thing. In fact, Bitcoin and many cryptocurrencies are more or less banned in China, Russia, and many other countries where governments are left-wing. And I humbly, personally believe in a free market and that competition is good for the consumer. So when government officials make these outlandish comments, I try to see things from their perspective, even if I don't agree with them. And like government officials in many countries are saying that inflation is not a problem, right? But from a Machiavellian perspective, where the ends justify the means, I suppose that countries don't want mass panic when it comes to inflation or getting people worried about that sort of thing. But the real reason why many governments hate cryptocurrencies is because cryptocurrencies are the largest threat to national security in many countries. And I'll explain why. So, the most powerful weapon that countries have is the ability to change interest rates. Okay, and what they do is big governments will buy and sell bonds to increase the money supply or decrease the money supply, which changes interest rates. Now, hypothetically speaking, if every citizen in a country no longer uses their currency and they only use cryptocurrencies, then governments can't raise money by issuing bonds and change interest rates. And what will happen is governments will go bankrupt because governments don't make enough money by collecting taxes. It doesn't work that way. They're not run like a business, nor should they be. They issue bonds. And if there's no demand for their currency and people are only hypothetically buying cryptocurrencies, then those countries will go bankrupt. And so that's why I believe that cryptocurrencies are banned in many countries, and many more countries will ban them soon. Let's talk about why stocks gap down or go up a lot when companies report earnings. So many investors come up with target prices on companies based on their future estimates. And for example, let's say that an investor expects earnings to be $5 a share in 5 years. And that investor thinks that the company should trade at 10 times earnings in 5 years. So that means 10 times $5 in earnings, which results in a target price of $50 in 5 years. Now, when companies report earnings, investors take the financial statements from the earnings report and they enter in details from the financial statements as fast as they can in their financial models. And if the financial statements are worse than expected, then in the investor's financial models, in 5 years, that $5 in earnings goes down. And if it goes down, for example, from $5 to $4 in earnings in 5 years, then the investor thinks that in 5 years, the P/E multiple of 10 times the stock will lead to a target price of $40 and not $50. And so the general rule that often works is that if a company reports earnings that are, let's say, 20% worse than expected, then that means that investors' target prices will also go down 20%, and therefore the stock gaps down 20%. Similarly, if a company reports earnings, and let's say they beat by 30%, then you might see the stock gap up 30% as investors update their numbers in their financial model. And so this explains why stocks gap up and down a certain amount around earnings. So how do you value a company based on earnings? Well, historically, the S&P 500, trades at 15 times earnings. And if a company is growing faster than the S&P, then that company trades at more than 15 times earnings. If a company is growing slower than the S&P, then it trades at less than 15 times earnings. Let me add one more level of logic to this. So the average company in the S&P 500 has earnings historically growing at 15%. So if the price earnings multiple of the average S&P company is 15, and we divide it by the growth of 15%, then that means a price earnings to growth rate of 1, a peg of 1, 15 over 15. If a company is growing earnings at 20%, then it usually trades at 20 times earnings. If a company is growing earnings at only 10%, then it grows at 10 times earnings, right? That's a simple rule to use. It's not perfect, but it'll help you understand valuation. All right, time for a new segment in our show called Lessons from Icons. This past week, I had my second Pfizer shot, and I was brutally sick for a few days, and I ran out of everything to watch on television. So what I did was I watched this Billie Eilish documentary on Apple TV, and I was blown away at how incredibly successful she's become at such an incredibly young age. And I humbly believe that one of the many reasons that she's incredibly successful is because of the way her parents raised her. Now, her parents let her and her brother Phineas, reminds me of Phineas and Ferb, the TV show my kids used to watch. Her parents let her and her brother Phineas become who they wanted to be instead of forcing them to become an engineer or a lawyer. And what they did was they actually encouraged their kids to believe in themselves and follow their dreams. And I think that if we force our kids to live our ideal lives and not theirs, then we have small problems when we have small kids. But then we have big problems when we have big kids. There's this whole generational shift given COVID where people who have this new YOLO economic mentality, and YOLO stands for You Only Live Once, which was the subject of a great interview I had with Linda Nazareth from the Globe and Mail on last week's show. You only get one shot at this life. And shame on parents that force their kids to get jobs to impress others. Let them be themselves and flourish and be happy. And if you haven't watched the movie 3 Idiots yet, then please turn me off and please watch it as it's life-changing. But when it comes to Billie Eilish, it's not just the artistic brilliance of her amazing sonic architecture, meaning her music is great, but it's also the way she won't sell out. And she's just herself, and she's transparent and vulnerable and honest, and her fans love her for it. And when you give a presentation, you just got to be yourself and be vulnerable. Just be honest and transparent. And when you're up there on stage presenting, if you make a mistake, people love you because you're you. You're just being yourself. It's so much easier to be you. So you do you. You be you. And screw what other people tell you to be. And Eilish is also incredibly creative with her videos, which she architects as well. And in business, the more creative we can be, the more successful we can be, as nobody ever makes it big trying to be somebody else. In music, there's only one Jay-Z. There's only one Billie Eilish. There's only one Stevie Wonder. And there's only one you. So just be you. Just do you. And people will love you for it. And it's kind of like, for me personally, I couldn't get a job for a while because I was acting and trying to answer questions perfectly. And I just wasn't being me. And then what happened was one day I got so fed up, man, that I went to an interview and I just told myself I don't care. And I was just me, and it worked. And I got the job humbly, and then it worked again and again and again for me. The same thing with corporate politics. You know, when I was around senior people at companies, I was always really careful, and I try to be somebody else. And the boss hates that, and your colleagues hate that too. But they all love you for just being you. So be you. You do you. It's easier that way. You know, try to be different in business too, and in all aspects of your life, just by being you. Muhammad Ali once said, "I'm the greatest. I said that before I knew I was." He said that. I'm the greatest. I said that before I knew I was. And I think that the most overlooked attribute of a successful entrepreneur or founder or CEO is confidence. And I love parents and managers and teachers that focus primarily on building the confidence of their kids, students, employees, etc. And I don't think you can put a dent in the universe and make a difference without confidence. And so confidence leads to charisma as well, if you believe in yourself. So I ask you, which version of yourself do you want to be? The version that tries to please others, or the version of you that can reach your full potential by being you? And I think what murders confidence is worrying. And Winston Churchill had this great quote. He said, "I once met a man who on his deathbed talked about all the worries he had in his life, none of which came true." Worrying kills us. And for me personally, when it comes to my career, what puts me at ease is I tell myself that God already knows what's going to happen. And that gives me peace of mind. So what I want to do is I want to show you a chart, the most important chart I think ever made. Let me clean up my desk here. So there's a chart here, and let me draw it for you. On this axis here is your age. And on this axis here is give a damn. And when you're younger, you're right down here, okay? You just don't give a damn what people think of you. And when you're older, you're over here. You also don't give a damn what people think of you. Old people don't have confidence problems. The problem is when you're right here, okay? 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever, when you're younger. You're at this level and you care what people think. And I call this the triangle of despair. And you've got to avoid that triangle of despair at all costs. What you have to do, and what the most successful entrepreneurs do, is you have to live at this level here, okay? I'm not saying be rude or disingenuous, but just don't give a damn what people think. Just be you. It's easier that way. And you'll reach your full potential that way. Always live at this level. And the best entrepreneurs live at this level as well. They don't give a damn what people think. They don't care. And I want you to embrace failure, okay? Failure is cool. You'll never get what you want in life unless you fail a bunch of times. And as Mark Cuban said, you only have to be right in business one time. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to give you all an exercise, homework. What I want you to do is I want you to get a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to write this down, okay? Whoops. I want you to write this down. Let me turn it on here. Here we go. Okay. I want you to write down, I don't care. It's therapeutic. A boot, Canadian. And then here, fill in for X, okay? Right here. I don't care about X. I don't care what people think of my lifestyle or who I am. I don't care what people think of my choice of career or my love of certain types of music. I don't care. I want you to do that 10 times. I don't, my writing sucks, but I don't care. I don't care about Do that 10 times. And the moment that you start living your life on your own terms and not giving a damn what people think of you is the moment you reach this awesome level of euphoria. So do this for homework tonight, please. Thank you. All right. Now it's time for questions. All right. So, as you know, you type your questions there in YouTube. I answer the questions in the order in which I receive them as well. So let me clean up my desk here, get rid of these keyboards. All right, this will be fun. All right. So the first question we've got here, first comment, is from ePronto. ePronto is saying, good morning, Chris. I trust your second dose of the vaccine went well. Here in Ontario, where my parents are, after aggressive marketing and 50% vaccination rates, the government just paused AstraZeneca due to blood clots reports, and the lockdown continues. I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. Yeah. And my family's going through that right now in Canada. My brother, sister, my parents. It's awful. It's awful. And I'm usually not political, but I think that the way the Trudeau government handled this whole COVID situation is brutal. It's brutal. And people have been wearing red hats. And so Trudeau, who's the prime minister, he used to be a drama teacher. And some people are wearing red hats saying, make Trudeau a drama teacher again. Yeah. I went to school with Trudeau too. Yeah, he was actually a nice guy. So ePronto is saying, I'm evaluating a stock of one great multi-billion-dollar cloud big data company that lost half its valuation in the last 6 months. I have faith in their technology, but not in how they run the business. I see exactly where the problem is. They reduced revenue and increased expenses during COVID. They ran at a loss for a number of years and only got profitable 1 quarter before COVID. Future modeling is tough due to the COVID year and recovery uncertainty. Would you recommend ignoring the COVID year in modeling? Yeah. So first of all, focus on the management team, because the jockey is always more important than the horse. And in my MBA degree program, what I do actually is I provide you with a massive financial model and a bunch of tools that you can use. And what I recommend doing is ignore the COVID year. Okay, when you create financial statements, because it's a one-time blip, a black swan, so to speak. Now, let me show you this new product I have, which is for my MBA degree program students, which is a 100-step Excel template that'll help you analyze the qualitative, quantitative, as well as the financials. And so this is just a very short video on the financial component of my MBA degree program. Next up, we've got Demian Valenzuela, who's in my MBA degree program. Great guy. He said, hi, Chris. Good morning from Barcelona. My first question is, what is the greatest economic impact on the corporate finances of companies after COVID-19. Yeah. So I would say during COVID, obviously revenue is being hit hard for a lot of companies, although we are recovering in certain countries. I would say that after COVID, I think that expenses are going to be lower. I think it's going to be a positive thing because a lot of companies have realized that many of their employees can work from home. And so I think expenses are going to go down. A lot of people are going to be able to telecommute, and you don't have to hire people in big cities, which costs a lot more because the cost of living is higher there. You can hire people all over the world. And so we just witnessed the death of distance. You can work from anywhere you want to. And so for me, I'm not a glass half full guy or half empty even. For me, my cup overfloweth with optimism. And so I think that years from now, we're going to look back on COVID and say, it was awful. It was terrible. However, we proved to the world that we can get more done remotely, which means it's better for the environment, right? We don't travel as much to work. It's better for our family life. We get to see our kids more often and our spouse. And we're just happier because we can have multiple jobs at once. And I think we're going to witness the death of full-time employment. People are going to have many part-time jobs and live their lives on their own terms as well and start their side hustles. And I think that many younger people and older people too are going to look back at COVID and say, it was awful. However, it forced me to think about changing careers, to do something I love better. And it also forced me to start my own company. A lot of people have been starting their own companies at home, whether it's little side hustles, teaching online, or creating games on Roblox and making millions. And a bunch of people make millions making games on Roblox. Yeah. All right. Next question is from Demian, who's saying, would it be important to take into consideration the value of business stories as explained by Professor Damadorian in the book Narrative and Numbers? Yeah. So I think that in general, storytelling works really well. If there's a pain point for a company and the history of a company and why they became what they are, and it helps their corporate culture too. And it sells them as being more human. I'll give you an example. So there were 5 brothers in Italy, the Jacuzzi brothers. And what happened was one of their children had severe muscular issues. And the 5 Jacuzzi brothers, they moved to America. And they used to make airplanes and airplane engines. And what they did was, from a storytelling perspective, it's a true story, it's a great story. What they did was they re-engineered their airplane engine product and they put it into a bathtub. And that's why Jacuzzi became what it is. And so storytelling works exceptionally well. One more quick story as well. Bombardier, which I'm proud to say is a Canadian company, they make snowmobiles. The reason they made that product was because somebody in the Bombardier family couldn't get to a hospital fast enough in the middle of Quebec, great province, in the middle of winter. And so they made the skidoo, or the snowmobile, so to speak. So storytelling works exceptionally well. And having a personal pain point when you're pitching your business model usually helps a lot, right? Because you want to prove the world wrong. And investors love that too, because they know that you're not in it for the money. You're in it to improve the world, and you're never going to quit. You're going to do whatever it takes to solve this personal pain point and make your business flourish. All right, next up, we got Dario from Italy. Hey, Dario, how are you, man? Dario wrote, hi, Chris, I like your new format. Thank you. Appreciate it. When I think it's great, you keep doing even better. Congratulations. Thank you. And my team is wonderful as well. Matt Lacousse, Joey, Doug. If I'm leaving anybody out, I'm so sorry. They're awesome. This would be nothing without them. They're awesome. They're awesome. Thank you. But we are pushing the goalpost out, and eventually this is going to look better, humbly, than CNBC. Yeah. Every week we're making progress. And every time I talk about a news story, and I've still got work to do on it, I always ask myself 2 words. So what? So what? How can this help my students become more successful? Yeah. So thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it. All right. All right. Next up, Demian wrote, what would be the impact on valuation of companies? And I think I answered that one. And God bless you more. Thank you. Next up, Dario wrote, unfortunately, sometimes I don't have 3 hours straight to follow the entire weekly webcast. I divide it into 3 pieces and watch it 1 hour per day. Today I have 3. And thank you. And by the way, I also have, if you're interested, I also have a podcast. Go to my website, harounventures.com, and you'll find it there in the menu system. Thank you. Okay, and Dario wrote, in your opinion, what makes a life meaningful? Sometimes I think about how I would like to be remembered and what legacy I would like to leave. Yeah. I think if you approach life thinking that I want to leave this earth, making my mark and making it in better condition than when I entered it, it gives you a sense of purpose. Just to be able to serve others and help others in general. If you help other people with your time, not just money, it gives you a great purpose. And if you can create a company or work in a company where you're making the world a better place, I think that's a beautiful thing. A great example of this is Salesforce.com, which is the largest employer here in San Francisco. What Salesforce does, which is run by Mark Benioff, is they have this 1%, 1%, 1% philosophy. And they've done this since day one when they were founded in 1999. 1% of their products are given to charity. 1% of the time of all employees is given to charity. And 1% of their earnings is given to charity. Right? And that really helps enhance the corporate culture. And I really wish that more companies did something like that as well. Yeah. All right. Next question from Dario is, since cryptocurrencies are already spreading like wildfire, do you think inflation could provide a further incentive to their mainstream adoption? I do, because the problem with traditional currency is governments can print an unlimited amount of these things. And so the number of US dollars in circulation went up 25% year over year last year. And as we know, whenever the supply of anything increases, the price goes down, meaning, the price of, and this currency, by the way, this is from 1957. It looks like today's, but I guess when it comes to monopolies, there's no incentive to innovate. Yeah. All right. Next question is from Dario. When inflation rises, which assets tend to outperform, aside from tips and commodities? Yeah. And for those of you not familiar with tips, it stands for Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. It means buying a U.S. government bond that goes up in value. If inflation goes up, it goes up just as much, right? So you're kind of protected, hence the name, Treasury Inflation Protected Security. Yeah. In terms of commodities, gold usually is a flight to quality. Now, also, there's certain stocks, which are defensive stocks that outperform. Defensive stocks are stocks where you buy the product no matter what they sell, even if the economy sucks. So for example, food-based products, Campbell's Soup, CPB, soup is good food, and companies with high dividend yields as well. Yeah. And growth stocks tend to underperform. So anything that's expensive but growing quickly. Yeah. Just look at Warren Buffett's portfolio, okay, because he's a value investor, and many of those stocks will outperform when the market's not doing well. Next up, Dario wrote, P.S. to whoever is reading this, please take Chris's courses. They can literally change your life. I appreciate that. Thank you. God bless you. God bless. And thank you so much, because my students inspire me so much, and without you, I would not be able to do this. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next up, Mike is saying, hey, Chris, what are your thoughts on Tesla no longer accepting Bitcoin for environmental reasons? Is Musk getting woke, or is there something else going on behind the scenes? Yeah. So, I saw the same press release you saw as well. Elon Musk doesn't want to accept Bitcoin anymore because he says that it takes a lot of electricity to mine Bitcoin, which is bad for the environment. And that kind of confused me because, if you have a Tesla and you plug it into the wall, you're using electricity as well to charge it. A little bit less so, I know, compared to normal cars, so to speak. But if you live in a country where there's a lot of coal plants out there and you plug in your Tesla to charge it, you're kind of burning coal, which is bad for the environment as well. So there might be another reason as well there. It might also be because he met with his CFO, and I'm just making this up, And a CFO, basically said, Elon, we work in the auto industry, and there's a shortage of autos. Used car prices went up 10% month over month, which is the biggest month over month increase in history. And because of a shortage, there's a lot of inflation. And I'm worried about the economy. I'm worried about growth of this company as well because of inflation. And as a result, I think Bitcoin might be speculative, and therefore, let's not accept it. I made that up, right? Not that point about the cars. It's true. There's a massive shortage. Yeah. All right. Roberto Martinez is saying hi, everyone. Hey, man. Next up, we got David, who's saying, hey, Chris, is it better to take a small amount of money from a small venture capital firm just to get in and start the ball rolling, or hold out for a larger amount of money from a bigger venture capital firm? Yeah. So what I always say when it comes to venture capital is raise as much money as you can when you can. Always. And I say that because the whole process of raising money is incredibly distracting. And a lot of companies will go to the capital markets and raise money from venture capital firms every 1 to 2 years. And that sucks up a couple months each year in terms of distractions of the CEO, trying to sell the company or try to raise money instead of trying to run the business. And a lot of people that work at big companies and they do skill X and they don't make much money, they think to themselves, well, if I start my own company doing skill X, I can make a lot more money. Then they start a company and they realize, my goodness, I didn't realize how many distractions there'd be trying to raise money. It takes a lot of time. And so the bottom line is always raise as much money as you can when you can. Because right now, the environment is capital chasing entrepreneurs. But usually the way it works is it's entrepreneurs desperately chasing capital. Next up, Vishnu is saying, hello, Mr. Chris. Hey, I'm asking again a question even before the stream starts. Awesome. Thank you. Do you think one person influencing the crypto market is acceptable? Yeah. I don't. I think that everybody needs to do their own research, always, right? Never rely on anybody else. Never rely on me to tell you what stock or investment to buy. Always do your own research. Always, always, always. Never rely on anybody else. And the worst thing you can do is watch an interview with a CEO and then buy the stock. Because CEOs are the best salespeople in the world. So are founders. That's how they got to the top. They're great salespeople. Always do your own research. Never rely on anybody else, ever. If you have a buddy you think is pretty smart telling you to buy Dogecoin, for example, do your research first, always, always. And the best way to do research is you read the investment offering for anything you want to buy, anything. Okay, so you read the S1 filing, meaning for the IPO. You read the annual report if the company's been public for years. You read the investment offering if a buddy of yours wants to have you invest in their company, etc. And when it comes to cryptocurrencies, you can take my complete cryptocurrency course, which is 49 steps on how to analyze any cryptocurrency. And I created that methodology, right? And I spent 6 figures in that course. I went all out. I created that 49-step methodology thinking of, if I were an investment banker creating an IPO document, an S1 for a company that's going to go public, how would I do that also, for a cryptocurrency? All right. And Vishnu is now asking, as cryptocurrency is entirely decentralized, its control is usually in the hands of people themselves. But why is the market experiencing such drastic up and downs due to one person? Yeah. So I know who you're referring to. I would say that, so we're at a point in history that we've never witnessed before. A point where you have multiple bubbles. And usually what happens is there's one bubble, like a stock market bubble, and then it bursts, and another bubble gets created, like real estate bubble, then it bursts, and then another bubble gets created, like cryptos. But what's happened is unprecedented over the past year. Because of COVID, you've seen economic growth worse than it was during World War II even. For example, 1 year ago in the second quarter in the United Kingdom, their GDP, meaning revenue for the country, their GDP was down 20% year over year. It wasn't even that bad when the Germans were bombing London in World War II. And so all around the world, governments are terrified of what could happen with, social unrest, etc., with COVID. And so governments around the world, rightly so, have cut interest rates basically to zero. And they've signaled to the marketplace, right, whenever you hear a government official speaking, that they're not that worried about inflation, even if they are. But they signal they're not. And they're doing that because they want interest rates to stay low, artificially low for a long time, until we get out of this conundrum, this awful COVID conundrum, so to speak. And by doing that, people thought to themselves, you know what? Cash is trash. The government keeps making more of this stuff in every country or most countries. So why would I hold on to cash if interest rates are basically zero? I won't. What I'll do is I'll invest in anything except cash. That's why real estate prices are all-time highs. Lumber's at an all-time high. The price of used cars increased 10% month over month last month, which is the biggest increase in history. The stock market's near an all-time high. There's many cryptocurrencies at an all-time high. You have very speculative investments in non-fungible tokens or digital art online, which is at nosebleed tulip bulb levels, right? You never see this. You never see a bubble in every single market. It's unprecedented. It's unprecedented. There's a melt up. All ships have been rising. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable in my humble opinion. And so I've been accumulating cash over the past couple of weeks. Yeah. I want to have dry powder. And the way you know when to buy a stock is when the VIX, just type up ticker VIX, reaches an all-time high, right? When it reaches an all-time high, you're going to feel awful. You're going to think the world's ending, but you back up the truck then. And I could show you on a chart if you want me to. Okay. All right. Next up, Dylan. Hey, Dylan. And I have a son named Dylan as well. Yeah. Picture of him over there. Dylan said, hey, Chris, you mentioned owning Ripple, ticker XRP. What are your thoughts on the SEC lawsuit with Ripple? Yeah, I don't know too much about it, to be honest. The founder of Ripple lives around the corner from me here. I still own it, and I'm not selling, and I haven't sold a single share. Okay, I don't know anything, though. And so there's 4 cryptos that I've publicly said that I've owned forever, and I'm never selling. And please do your research. Don't just rely on me ever. But those 4 cryptos, and I publicly stated over and over and over again over the years on this webcast, those cryptos are Bitcoin, Ether or Ethereum, Litecoin, which is like Bitcoin's little brother or little sister, and then Ripple. Yeah, those are the 4 I own. Yeah. All right. And then Dylan wrote here, Chris, you mentioned to keep an eye on the VIX and take note if it rises above 20. No, not above 20, when it reaches an all-time high. Yeah. And you wrote, why is this important to be aware of? Because you want to, if we all buy stocks that everybody loves, then there's not that many incremental investors to push those stocks higher. And as Warren Buffett said, the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff and it goes on sale. So when things go on sale, right, when stocks are getting hit hard, when there's blood in the streets, people are panicking. And when people panic, volatility increases a lot in the markets. And when volatility increases a lot, so does the VIX. Okay, and so the VIX, it's on the CBOE in Chicago. And let me see if I can get this to work here. There we go. Good. Yeah. All right. So if you go to finance.yahoo.com and I don't know, it asked me to sign in. I haven't used Yahoo in years. Remind me later. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Yeah. So if you go here to finance.yahoo.com, okay, and you type up VIX, okay, and this is on the Chicago Board of Exchange, and you look at a historical chart of the VIX, of the VIX, and we go to maximum, okay. You need to buy when it goes to an all-time high. So the VIX was created back in 1989 or 1990, right here, okay? And it spikes every now and then. So it spiked here after Gulf War I. It spiked on 9/11. It spiked again in 2008 in the financial crisis here. and then it spiked to an all-time high, over 80 actually, if you look at the intraday, March of 2000, when people were worried about, COVID and stuff. When it spikes to an all-time high, that's when you buy. Okay, so I have a lot of dry powder left, and when people freak out, and they will at some point this year, then I'll be backing up the truck, right? You got to be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. And if you have additional questions about that, please let me know, and thank you. Yeah. And I'm in the process of making 2 courses this year, the complete options course and the complete real estate course as well. And so you guys will enjoy it. And the tricky thing about options is it's so damn complicated, and the way it's taught is so idiotic, right? And so what I'm doing with options and futures, and this is kind of ridiculous what I'm about to show you, is I'm playing the role of a farmer, and I'm showing you exactly how it works when it comes to options and futures. So let me go there really quickly. Okay, with futures, the way it works is years ago, if I was a farmer in the United States or anywhere, and I wanted to sell my wheat, what would happen is I wouldn't get paid right away. It would go on a train, and it would go to Chicago or wherever, and 7 days later, it would go to market. Then I'd actually get money based on whoever buys it in the future. And the problem with that is that for a lot of farmers, if they don't get a certain price for their wheat, they lose the farm, so to speak. And so what they did was they used futures, right? They basically sold their product today at a price in the future. And so I'm explaining it that way. And a lot of companies actually, they have to buy commodities in the future. Like, for example, General Mills, which makes Wheaties. There's a lot of wheat involved there as well. I've got this attached to my shirt. Hold on a second. Well, all right. And so General Mills, and this is one of the many props I'm using in this course coming out later this year, but General Mills, ticker GIS, they have to buy wheat as well. And so they don't want their exposure to be to very volatile wheat prices. They want to lock in a lower price. And so they'll be on the buy end. The sell end will be the farmer. The buy end will be GIS. And interestingly enough, so Michael Phelps, who won a gazillion medals in the Olympics, he was on the cover of Wheaties until 2012. He was caught doing drugs. And so they took him off the cover of Wheaties. And so I think they should change it to winners don't do drugs. Champions do. No? Don't do drugs. Yeah, sorry. Dude, I went like an hour or so without any dad humor today. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then we've got Ashira is saying, hey, Chris, I wanted to know if you can solve the Rubik's Cube. Yeah. Only when I take it into pieces and then force it back together. Yeah. Yeah. I can do one side. That's for sure. Yeah. One of my kids is pretty good at it. Yeah. All right, next up, we got Steve who's saying, hey, Chris, the new format is fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it. Great. Thanks for the great content and all you've been doing to help everyone. Just to appreciate you today, I have no question. Thank you, Steve, and God bless you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. This is fun. All right. And I've got brand new lights coming in the back as well. So it's going to be, so it's actually going to look more cinematic and like a television production. And you'll know I'm there when you watch Business News Network or CNBC and you're like, that's what Chris's looks like. And I'm far from that. But the way I'm setting this up is I'm never going to take any sponsors ever from anybody. And I know that's hurt my channel too, my YouTube channel. I get offers all the time for sponsorships from big companies. I'll never do it because I want to stay true and pure to my customer, my students, my friends. I don't want to be biased by anybody ever. And in fact, if you go to my if you go to my website, you'll notice because I get tons of inbounds right all the time. Right here when you go to press, okay, you'll see I wrote here. Please note we don't accept any sponsorship deals of any kind, regardless of remuneration amount of your company. We also do not accept or make any partnership deals of any kind here, as we're 1,000,000% focused on adding tremendous value, humbly, hopefully, to our students, right? So anyway, that's I'm going to stay true to that. Stay true to that. Yeah. And it's been tempting, dude. It's been tempting. Yeah. But no. And I don't care if that hurts my growth because it's all about you, the student, the customer. Always. Yeah. And this is going to be unbiased business news as well. Right. So if you go to certain websites, they're biased when it comes to the news because of who pays for advertising. Like if you go to IGN's websites or any video game review website, they don't really say negative things about Microsoft or Xbox games and stuff because Microsoft's a big advertiser. Yeah. So I'm not going to be that. All right. Next up, Majed wrote, hey, Chris, hey, how do you know where to cut losses on a long-term investment? And I know your opinion about day trading too. Is day trading really a scam? Yeah. So a couple questions there. For the first one, in terms of cutting losses, whenever I look at a stock and I do research, I always look at risk versus reward. And so the reward is upside to my target price. The risk is sometimes a technical support level. And so I want the upside of my target price, the reward, to be much greater than the risk. That's how I size it. But what I do is I do cut my losses if something changes in the thesis or if it breaks support or if I'm too exposed to a certain sector. So when you look at general portfolio management, you don't want to have too much of your portfolio in a particular sector, right? And I teach about this in my MBA degree program in a lot of detail. But if the thesis changes after I buy the stock, I'm unemotional, I sell it. So I like to write one-page reports, which I talked about in some of my courses, and much longer reports in my MBA program. And then after those reports are done, I buy the stock, right? And I'm not a tourist. Like I don't rent stocks. Like I'm an owner, I'm there forever. And I don't buy stocks just for 10 or 20% upside because it's random. I go for 5-baggers, 5x5s, 500% return in 5 years. Do I make mistakes? All the time. But my portfolio usually does quite well because I've done a lot of research, humbly, on a lot of stocks. Now, when I write that one-page report and I buy the stock, if I'm freaking out, which is rare, but it happens, if I'm freaking out because the stock is, looks like catching a falling knife, I'll go back and I'll read that one-pager. And I'll think to myself, when I wrote this one-pager, new news has come out since then. Has anything changed? And if I knew about this new news or new development when I wrote this one-pager, would I have still bought the stock? If the answer is no, then I sell it. I'm unemotional, I'll get it. Otherwise, I'm a long-term investor. In terms of trading in general, we have to remember that the environment we've seen over the past year is not normal. Okay, it's not normal to have a melt-up in everything. It's not normal, right? The market's not always like this. One data point doesn't make a trend. One data point meaning 1 year. Quite often stocks go up and down for random reasons outside of our control. So you get fooled by randomness if you're trading your short-term focused. I think you can make a lot more money being long-term focused. Yeah. All right. Vishnu is saying, by the way, how are you, Mr. Chris? I'm great, thanks. I'm always great. Thank you. Sort of. Last week I took the second Pfizer shot. It was brutal, but pain is always in the mind. It's temporary. I feel great. Next up, we got Demian Valenzuela is saying, it looks like you repeated these questions here. Yeah. All right, and God bless you too. Next up, Jack Sparrow. Johnny Depp's the only American that can do a half-decent British accent. For some reason, the Brits, they do great American accents, but not vice versa. But Jack Sparrow wrote, hey, Chris, I would love to know about some of your interesting travel stories. Yeah. So for me, one trip that changed me is when I went to India. So when I used to work in venture capital during the day, I would teach during the evenings. One of the schools was the HALT International School of Business. And they sent me to Mumbai and Delhi just to teach a couple classes, probably some marketing thing, whatever. And when I was there, it changed me. In Mumbai, I remember my taxi driver drove me from the airport to my hotel, and we drove through the slums. Now, there's a lot of wealthy people in Mumbai, but of the 25 million people there, 20 million or so live in the slums. And when we drove through the slums, and I took a video of it in my iPhone too, it changed me because I saw so many people with nothing that were laughing and just so happy. It kind of changed me. And so if you haven't gone to India, you got to put it on your bucket list to go visit there one day. Yeah. So that was great for me. In terms of other travel, I used to go to school in Cuba. I went on exchange at the University of Havana, Faculty of Economics, and that was a lot of fun. And I remember when I was in Cuba. This was back in the early '90s. When Castro was still alive, and the guys in my class, like, they were awesome, right? They're great buddies of mine. They wouldn't open up about communism or Castro until one night we were in Havana. We were drunk on Cuba Libre. And I told them about the U.S. news. I said, so here's what's happening in America. I said, there's this awful situation of this African-American getting beaten up by police officers. Rodney King, I think his name was, yeah. And they said, we know about that, and it happens here in Cuba all the time. I said, how the heck do you know about this? I mean, Castro, he doesn't let you get the news, right? Like, how do you know? And they said, come to our house, I'll show you. And so we were hammered. Sorry. Actually, I'm not. We were hammered, and we went to this guy's house in my class. Okay, it was a little apartment, dilapidated area, and we climbed up through the fire escape, and he turned the TV on, and it was CNN. And I was like, dude, how the heck do you have CNN? And he said, well, a bunch of us have figured it out. I was like, well, how? He said, well, let's go up to the roof. And so we went in the fire escape up to the roof. And he pointed at a building in the distance. He goes, do you know what that is? And I said, yeah, it's the International Hotel in Havana. He said, what's on the roof? And I looked and I was like, a bunch of satellite dishes. Then he pointed to the ground on the top of his roof. And out of pots and pans, he had made a satellite dish that pointed at the hotel to steal the feeds, the television feeds. And I looked around, and there were these satellite dishes or these little pots and pans on the tops of roofs everywhere. And so you can't block, like, from a propaganda perspective, you can't block the media. And that influenced me to create my foundation, or a partner with one of my students, for Project Magoo, which means we're building schools in Rwanda, which is the subject of my TEDx talk. We're building schools in Rwanda. And what we're going to do is we're going to send internet access for unfiltered internet for free for all the students in the mini schools we're building in Rwanda. And so when you put your hand in a stream to try to stop minnows, you can't. All the minnows will go through your fingers. And so I believe that we're on the cusp of a breakthrough when it comes to civil liberties globally because of free internet that's going to be beamed down from satellites. Elon Musk is going to be doing it. All of our great space pioneers are going to help as well. And society will change from within in all these countries out there where there's no civil liberties. Yeah. All right. Next question is from Harsh. Hey, Harsh. Harsh is saying, what are the future of banks? Yeah. I think we'll see more decentralization. There's no reason why you need to have a brick and mortar bank. You don't need to go to a teller anymore. I think we're going to witness the death of paper currency because everything is electronic, especially with COVID. It's interesting. I use this to pay for everything without ever touching a register, right? And so I think holding cash is going to kind of be old school, whatever. And so I think banks are just going to be decentralized. They don't have to be located on Wall Street or in big cities. It'll be decentralized, yeah. It's still heavily regulated by governments, though, which they should be, yeah. All right, next up, Arthur is saying, hello, Chris. Hope all is well. Likewise. I started to write down my goals as you've recommended many times. Awesome. How often should I write down my goals, and how do you write them down? Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah. As often as you can. As often as you can. Yeah. So what I do is I write them down in my personal calendar here, and I repeat that calendar entry every single day, right? And every now and then I'll go through it, and I'll check off which ones I've accomplished, or I'll change some outcomes of some of them. Or, like, for example, I wanted to get I've achieved humbly all my goals except getting a black belt in karate. I got into a car accident years ago, but it's okay. It was a good thing because it guided me down a different path in life. And so I'm stuck at a yellow belt, but I'm a mean yellow belt. Yeah. I write down my goals often. Yeah. Because what's depressing is, and I'm a very happy person, but what's depressing is when you reach a goal and then you're like, that's it? So you always have to push the goalpost out and set new goals. Always, 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 always. Yeah. All right. Next up, Vishnu is saying, what's the best way to introduce yourself to somebody on LinkedIn before connecting? Yeah. So what I would say is when you're networking, and you can all go to my website, Haroun Ventures, scroll down and get my networking book for free. People criticize me for saying that too much, so I don't do that as much anymore. And people also criticize me for sounding tired in my studio. You get real-time criticism on YouTube. It can be brutal sometimes, which is why I got rid of the chair. There'll never be a chair again ever in here. I'm always going to be standing here, always. But when you go to LinkedIn, and by the way, that course I gave away today, you guys should take it because I help you make an amazing LinkedIn profile. And so if you go to my website, Haroun Ventures, and then click here on Power Search, you can get this course here for free, which is my complete job course, which I'm proud to say is free, and I want to help everybody. But when you use LinkedIn, what you have to do is you got to find something you have in common with people, because people want to help you, especially people that have something in common with you. All you got to do is ask. And so you do an advanced search, and you find people that went to the same school as you maybe, or from the same hometown. And then in the in-mail, and every in-mail you've received, everybody in this call, every in-mail you've ever received over LinkedIn, you've opened and read it. I know you have. Because nobody reads emails anymore, but every in-mail you get, you read. And in your in-mail, the subject line you type, hi. Everybody opens it. The contents of your in-mail, you write this. John, I'm making this up. John, hope all is well. I also went to the Toronto French School, and I also grew up in Mississauga, and I also live here in the Bay Area. Please let me know if you have time for a coffee or a quick Zoom call. Thanks. Your future boss. No, thanks, Chris. and people want to help you. But if you tell them why you want to meet, what will happen ultimately is a lot of times they just won't respond. Not because they don't want to help you, just because they feel bad they might not be able to. So you never say, I'm looking for a job or customer. You leave that element of surprise there. Okay, mystique. And then once you get that informational meeting with them, you just bond. Kind of like with any meeting in business. You bond before business. You talk about, sports, the weather, what you have in common with them. And you go to their Twitter profile to see which sports they like. So you can spark up a conversation with them, that sort of thing. Or movies or whatever it is. Yeah. Thank you. Cool. Oh, wow. We got 74 concurrent people. This is great. Thank you. I'm never selling out. Remember that. Okay. Companies have reached out to me trying to sponsor me. No, not going to do it. Yeah. All right. All right. Next up here. Manas. Hey, Manas, how are you? Manas is one of my wonderful students from India. Manas wrote, "Good morning, my dear mentor. How are you today? I'm great, thank you. I hope you're doing well. Are you wearing masks nowadays? Because last week I saw people in Russia that have forgotten what masks are. So what's the condition there? Yeah. So we here, the rule is now that you don't have to wear them outdoors unless you're in a public place. Yeah. So yeah. And so for the first time this past week, I've stopped sanitizing, stuff I get delivered from Amazon, right? Because I got my second dose last week. Technically, I've got to wait 2 weeks until I'm covered, but whatever. Yeah, but no, things are getting back to normal. Yeah, but I do worry a lot about India still. Yeah, and for those of you that are in India and you want to take my entire MBA in one course in Hindi, you can get it for free. Just go to learn.harounventures.com. Yeah. Next up. All right. And then Manas wrote, Gary is now focusing on NFTs, meaning non-fungible tokens. What kind of future have on most developing countries like my country, do you believe NFTs are the new future of modern technology business? Yeah. So I think because interest rates are zero in every country or close to zero, it's created a bubble in many different asset classes. And that NFT bubble will burst eventually, right? But like with any new secular growth story or new market, all ships rise. It's just the way it is. And then sanity sets in, and only the better products are priced at a premium, like certain baseball cards with Mike Trout on it, and not just digital art by random people. Yeah. But I do believe that NFTs are kind of like an extension of cryptocurrencies, and that certain NFTs will be used like cryptos in the long run. Yeah. All right. And I read everything everybody writes here. So somebody by the name of No wrote, and if I miss any question, paste it again, please. Wrote, ultimately, point is how to get your MBA program at free cost to learn modules to enhance skills and help others. Yeah, yeah. So I think the best way for me to answer that question is if you go to my website here. Okay, so just go to HarounEducation.com. And if you go here to Power Search, you can search for anything and get free education, right? So, for example, if I were to search for, cryptocurrency, and I've done over 10,000, I'm so sorry, guys, it didn't work. I've done over 10,000 10,000 questions I've answered. But if you type in cryptocurrency, so again, what you do is you go here to About, Chris and More, Power Search, and then you type whatever you want in here. So I typed cryptocurrency, and so there are 60 answers here. It's getting indexed. There's a hell of a lot more on cryptocurrencies and answers I've given over the years, including this NBC interview, whatever. And if you're in my MBA degree program, you click here and this will link directly to the contents of that. And there's thousands of entries and all that stuff. Yeah. So check out Power Search on my website if you want to. It's something I just deployed. It's going to get better and better over time. Yeah. Thank you. Hope you're happy with the answer. All right. Next question is, when is your real estate course coming out? I'm booking a time on my calendar so I can put my attention into your course. Yeah. So my options course and real estate course are going to hit Udemy later this year at my website. And I'm adding much more thorough stuff to my MBA degree program based on that content. So if you're in my MBA degree program, and the way it works is you get all of my content, additional stuff I add to the program for free forever as well. But it comes out in the second half of this year. And what I'm doing is in my MBA program, I'm adding an entire new section on options to class number 89 and derivatives, etc., and more advanced stuff. So if you scroll down, you could see here the differences between my programs. There's silver, gold, and platinum. If you sign up for silver, what you can do is any new stuff I add, you'll get. Same thing with gold and platinum. And if you do silver and you want to upgrade later, you get front of the line access. You're guaranteed access to these and with a discount. Read this stuff if you want here. And by the way, if you want to buy the program, I have a sale going on, which expires tomorrow. Just go to my website for the coupon, right? So it'll pop up. Here it is there. I set it up so it pops up after 3 seconds, right? It works on mobile as well. 1, 2, 3, here it is. And so you can click here and get 40% off. And there's the sale ends tomorrow. There's a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee. So check it out if you're curious. Yeah. No more selling. I want to help students. Okay. All right. Next up, Harishi is saying, with inflation going up, will the stock market fall back to normal? Yeah. I think it all depends. If governments start to increase or imply they're going to increase interest rates, then yeah, the stock market will get hit hard. And the reason is because, hypothetically speaking, if interest rates went up to 20%, which happened in the early 1980s. In the early 80s, Paul Volcker, who was in charge of monetary policy in America, head of the Federal Reserve, what Volcker did was, because inflation was crazy around 1980, was he raised interest rates to 20%. It was nuts. And because of that, what happened was the stock market did awful. Hardly any companies were founded because people thought to themselves, well, I'm just going to keep my money in the bank because I can make 20%, man, or buy bonds. Why should I invest in the markets? So it all depends on the degree of inflation. If it gets out of hand, then the government, by all means, will go ballistic and raise rates a lot. Otherwise, what happens is you get the Deutschmark post-World War I, where people had to take wheelbarrows into the market of Deutschbanks in order to buy stuff. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, first of all, you're looking really awesome today. Thank you. And that jacket is killing the atmosphere. It would have been great if your background would have contrasted your coat. A suggestion only. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we've got Arjun, who wrote, hi, Chris, a few questions to ask. Number one, what do you think about renewable energy and cryptocurrencies? And number two, what do you think about ARK Invest's insane valuation of Tesla? Yeah. So I don't have any thoughts or anything smart to say about ARK. But in terms of renewable energy and crypto, I know why you're asking that question. So you're asking the question probably because Elon Musk, he basically said, we're not allowing customers to use Bitcoin anymore to buy Teslas because when people mine Bitcoin, it's bad for the environment, right? And I guess if you plug in an electric car into the wall and charge it, it's bad for the environment too, but not as much as gasoline, obviously. Yeah. So it's kind of a one-off comment he made. Yeah, I'm sure there's other reasons why he made that comment as well. All right, let's see. But it all depends. Like if you're mining cryptocurrencies at your house and where you live, like China, for example, there's 4,000 coal mines, belching disgusting pollution into the sky, then yeah, you're hurting the environment. But if you're mining cryptocurrencies at your house and you have solar on your roof like I do, you're not hurting the environment. Yeah. And by the way, about a third of all pollution above California is or has been from mainland China because of all those awful coal plants. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next question is, Manas wrote, content is king and context is queen, and the queen rules the house. What are your thoughts on this one? Yeah. I've never heard of that before. I do believe that when you're creating content, like I had breakfast with the head of all media at LinkedIn, Carolyn Fairchild. I went to LinkedIn's headquarters, and she said when you create content, you have to ask yourself two questions. Number one, why you? And number two, why now? And so why now is it's relevant, right? So for example, the way I'm doing the news in this webcast, because it's relevant. Why you? Because I have experience in this area, that sort of thing. Yeah. All right. Next up, Harsh wrote, will the government control crypto? I think in a lot of countries, when push comes to shove, if people start using cryptocurrencies, a lot, like 5% of their liquid assets are in cryptos and not in their own currency. And if governments find that it's hard for them to be able to raise money through bonds, then I think what happens is, I think it gets controlled and regulated and outlawed in a lot of countries. Yeah. More left-wing countries, though, like Russia and China. Yeah. All right. Next up, RJ wrote, thank you for explaining concepts with easy, clear, understandable terms and cool props. You're most welcome. It's fun. Show and tell works. Like when you were a kid in school, you might not remember what the teacher said, but you remember what prop all your buddies brought in. And when you're doing a presentation at work or wherever, I recommend buying props, right? And you can buy them on eBay and then sell them back after you're done presenting. So it's like a 5% rental fee, so to speak. Yeah, it's fun. All right. Next up, Arjun wrote, Chris, you're a very enthusiastic person. I like the way you explain things. Thank you. I appreciate it. This is fun. All right. Next up, Muhammad wrote, and Muhammad, I hope you liked my little presentation there on Muhammad Ali earlier. Mohammed wrote, hey, Chris, hope all is well. I'm an international student applying for undergraduate school in the United States. I was admitted to UNC Chapel Hill, which is in North Carolina. But the high cost of tuition is a big barrier for me. So I just want to know if you know of any scholarships that would possibly help me paying the fees. If you don't, what do you think would be the best thing I can do at this point? Yeah. Congratulations on getting into UNC Chapel Hill. It's a great school. And that's actually where Michael Jordan went to play basketball. Yeah. So what I would do first and foremost is call the school and ask them about scholarships. And they'll tell you all the formal scholarship programs they have. Then what I would do is also ask the school if there are successful alumni from whatever country you're applying from, if it's not America, and to give you a list of them. Then I would reach out over LinkedIn. And maybe you don't even ask the school this. Maybe just do a search on LinkedIn for UNC and find extraordinarily wealthy people that went to that school, and set up a meeting with them and bond with them and ask them if they can help with a loan. And if they're similar to you and similar upbringing and whatnot, more often than not, they'll want to help you if you ask the right way. Because think about it this way. Think about how, let's say that in 20 years, you're 20 years older, of course, and you're 20 years more successful than you currently are. And this younger person reaches out to you with the exact same background as you, the same struggles, etc. And they ask for a meeting. Would you take that meeting? Would you help yourself in hindsight? Of course you would. But you got to set up a ton of these meetings. And I promise you, persistence does pay off. Yeah. Or what you can do is you can defer acceptance to Chapel Hill and then try to get a loan in the meantime. Yeah. And you can even ask if there's U.S. government loans like Sallie Mae, et cetera, where they help international students. Yeah. And if none of that works, let me know next week and in the coming weeks, and we'll work on Plan B. Yeah. We'll think about other ways to network. Okay, next up, Rafay. Hey, Rafay. And I used to work with a guy named Rafay Faruqi, great guy at Goldman years ago, yeah. And his cousin, Daniel Faruqi, worked for me. And he went to HBS, I remember that. Yeah, good guy. So Rafay is saying, hey, Chris, hope you'll be safe and healthy. Thank you. I started the complete personal finance course. However, top index funds like Vanguard are not available here. Can you please suggest some alternatives for Pakistan? Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So what I would do is I would call the 5 biggest banks in Pakistan and ask them which brokerage services they work with. Sometimes it's in-house, sometimes they outsource it. And when you talk to those brokerage services, ask them which ones have ETFs on their platforms. You don't have to use Vanguard as an ETF or Schwab. You can use other ones as well. There are many others, yeah. And if that doesn't work, let me know and we'll talk about Plan B. Thanks. All right. All right, next up, Roberto wrote, great information being given here. Thank you. We have Haroun who's saying, what do you think about the movie Boiler Room? What happened there? Yeah, so that was a movie. Ben Stiller was in that. Giovanni Ribisi, I remember that well. Yeah. So Boiler Room is about this fictitious company called JT Marlin, which sounds like JP Morgan sort of. JT Marlin. And what happened was it was this BS firm with a trading floor where they would call up people and get them to invest money, and then they'd steal the money and say, oh, the stock went bankrupt, whatever it was. Or they'd charge ridiculous commissions. And so it's a little bit extreme, right? But it's kind of like Jordan Belfort's firm, The Wolf of Wall Street. But those things do happen every now and then. And that's why we have the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, to monitor those sort of things. Yeah. So it was a good movie. I remember I saw it. I worked at Goldman at the time, and Giovanni Ribisi's father in the movie said, what kind of a company is that? It's not like Goldman Sachs. I was like, oh, wow, fun. All right, next up, M. Andrews, my middle name is Andrew, wrote, hi, Chris. Thanks for teaching all of this in your webcasts. Currently, I'm enrolled in your Silver MBA. Thank you. Appreciate it. I never learned this in high school or college. Would have made a difference in choices, but better late than never. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah. It's amazing that they don't teach you the most basic things in undergraduate school or high school to help you, survive in the real world. They don't teach you how to interview. They don't teach you how to present. They don't teach you how to get customers. They don't teach you how to manage your own money, right? They teach you how to manage other people's money if you get an MBA from a traditional school, but not your own. They don't teach you how to network and all that great stuff. So yeah, thank you. I think education's broken. I think in my lifetime, only 50 universities are going to be alive. And people will think to themselves, well, I'm not going to go to university and spend $100,000 unless I get into like a Harvard or whatever it is. Yeah. It's a joke, man. Like $100,000 for a 4-year undergraduate education where you have 13 hours of class a week and you learn nothing. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And my mission is to change that. Okay, cool. Next up, Colin Hodge wrote, hey, Chris, I'd like to know if residents of Guyana can get a crypto account. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. What I would do is I would just do a search online to see if it's accepted there. And so what you can do actually is, and let's go there together. This will be fun. You can go to Coinbase. And you can find out which countries are supported, right? So let's see here, and you go here to see if your country is listed. Yeah, I don't see it here when I did a search. Yeah, so I would go to other. That's strange. Yeah, I would go to other wallet and exchange companies and do the same thing I just did there. Search for your country. Yeah. All right. All right, next up we have Mr. Invisible saying, hey, Chris, in your MBA degree program, you provided a template to make a business plan for an investment report. Can I use your template to make those for 2 of my clients? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I have it. It's you do whatever you want with it. Absolutely. I'm not going to copyright all that stuff. Yeah, please. Yeah. And then you wrote, or can I just use every question in your template to make a business plan, an investment report? Use anything you want. You use everything that I have in that program to help you. There's no copyright on the materials and stuff. There is on the course itself and the brand name, but yeah. All right. Next up, and if I didn't answer your question correctly, let me know, please. Thank you. Next up, Dennis wrote, hello, Chris. Just imagine all the money you would have, all the money you have would be taken away. And do you think you would be able to come back to the level you're at now? And if yes, how would you do it? Oh, I love that question. Yeah. It's exciting starting over, right? Yeah. I'd find a way. Yeah. Like, I love hiring people that are poor, smart, and hungry. They're hungry. I hate hiring people that are entitled. That maybe went to a great school and born with a silver spoon in their mouth. And the reason they got in those great schools is because their parents donated money, that sort of thing. I think if you're poor, smart, and hungry, I love those attributes. I think you can overcome anything. Because in business, as Mark Cuban said, you only have to be right one time. But you got to have the mentality that, hey, man, I'm going to fail over and over and over again. And I don't care what people think of me. I'm going to make it. And it's like Tiger Woods, God bless him. I hope he gets back from his injury from his leg in the car crash. But he made it big. Then he failed big and he was out of it. Then he reinvented himself. And then rinse, lather, repeat. It's all up here. I think, therefore I am, like the Rodin sculpture. And you got to have the mentality of Muhammad Ali, who said something along the lines of, I always knew I was the greatest even before I was the greatest. And I know that sounds arrogant, but you got to have confidence that you can make it, right? Because with confidence, you can overcome any challenge you have in your life. Yeah. In terms of how I would do it, okay, let's say I went belly up and lost everything. I would still teach online. I'd find a way to add value online. And you don't need much to do it. All you need is one of these things. That's it. That's all you need. Yeah. Or I'd find some other side hustle. Next up, Vishnu wrote, Billie Eilish songs are awesome. You should try listening to Billie Eilish Khaled, a lovely song. Yeah, DJ Khaled. One of my students in my my platinum program is named Khaled as well. Yeah. You wrote a lovely song, Chris. And I was blown away by her talents. Yeah, me too. I love it. Thank you. And at such a young age too. It's incredible. Mr. Nobody wrote, what are your thoughts on dogs of the Dow strategy as a long-term investment strategy? Yeah, so I don't look at a basket approach and characterize certain companies based on buzzwords like that. I know what you're saying. I like to do bottoms-up research, right? I do a lot of research on individual companies and then just stay there for the long haul. And when I do research on companies based on the stuff I teach and the many templates I provide my students with, or arrows in your quiver, so to speak, when I do research on companies, most research reports I never finish. And the reason is because I start doing research with my templates on companies, and part of the way through, I'm like, oh my God, this is a crap investment, so I don't do it. But when I do complete a template, then I'm there for the long haul. Yeah. And I think anybody can outperform all those big mutual funds and hedge funds if they do a ton of research on stocks, more research than anybody else does. And I teach you how to do that in my MBA program. And if you're already in my MBA program, what you do is you go to, I think it's the beginning of the fourth semester, where I talk about that 100-step template. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Mr. Nobody wrote, I'm getting interested in the blockchain space. So is it a good time to be on the development side of it? Is it a good time to learn blockchain development? Yeah. I mean, what I usually do when I look at investments and business in general is I ask myself one question, which puts everything into context, which is this. In 5 years, will this technology be more or less relevant than it is today? And so when it comes to blockchain, I think blockchain is going to be more relevant in 5 years than it is today. So should you learn blockchain? Only if you're passionate about it. If it feels like work, forget it. And you can take courses on Udemy, for example, from this guy named Kirill, a really, really nice guy from Russia, lives in Melbourne, Australia. And he teaches you how to make a blockchain. But you have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you won't be successful enough at it. And in Silicon Valley, when I used to work in venture capital, we always said the difference between an average engineer and a great engineer is 10 times more performance. People are so passionate about technology, more so in any sector, that if you don't love it, you won't be able to have that 10x performance and be competitive. All right, and Sachin wrote confidence. Yeah, confidence is key. Yeah, it's up here. And I remember when I was a kid growing up in Canada back in the 80s, I remember the cover of Time and Newsweek magazine was this is the downfall of the American student. American students are 50th in the world in math, 50th in the world in science, etc. And every generation you see that, every 10 years people say that. And then I came to America and I started teaching. And what I'm about to say is not an American rah-rah thing at all. Okay. But because more than 50% of my students in the Bay Area here were born overseas. But I realized something. American students, whether or not they were born in this country, doesn't matter. American students are number one in the most important economic category nobody talks about, which is confidence. With confidence, you could sell something boring like cloud computing and make it sound exciting. With confidence, you can be like Jeff Bridges in the movie Tucker and take on the big three automakers. With confidence, you can sell yourself and anything. All right, next up, Mr. Nobody is asking, how do you determine the value of a stock? Meaning, how do we know it's a good time to buy or not? Yeah. So what I teach in my MBA degree program and my other finance courses too is always look at fundamentals first, valuation second, and a distant third, if at all, technicals. And so valuing a company is based on how much money you think they can make in the future. And what I love to do, and I've humbly done well doing this over the years in my career, I love to build out a financial model and model what I think revenue and earnings, etc., are going to be in 5 years. And then I base my target price based on my earnings estimate in 5 years. What does that mean? Well, usually the way you value companies is you slap on a PE multiple based on the growth rate. So if a company is growing at 20% earnings year over year, you put on a 20 times PE multiple. And so for me, I look 5 years out. And I look between year 4 and year 5 to see what earnings are growing. And if they're growing at 14%, then my target price is 14 times my earnings estimate in 5 years. And by doing that, what happens is you don't become a tourist in a stock. You're not renting it. You're there for the long term. You're a pit bull and a pork chop. And this way, if you see 500% upside, and I usually like to invest in 5x5s, meaning 500% upside in 5 years. Even if you're a bit wrong, say it's only up 100%, you're still going to do okay in the long run. And I remember years ago, before LinkedIn, ticker LNKD, was acquired by Microsoft in the summer of 2016. I remember it broke my heart they bought it because I thought it was going to be $1 trillion company one day because it was a monopoly in terms of HR software. But I remember at the time, I owned a ton of LinkedIn. And people said to me, Chris, you're crazy. How could you own LinkedIn? It trades at 100 times earnings. And I would say, no, it trades at 3 times my earnings estimate in 5 years. You got to be long-term focused, especially when it comes to making target prices. All right. Vishnu wrote here, I remember you wore a shirt with tiny patterns on it last week, Mr. Chris. This one suits you perfectly. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate all comments from Vishnu, Manas, everybody. Thank you. Yeah. And the issue, by the way, so when you go on television, I've done whatever TV interviews. That was me showing off. No. When you go on television, they tell you don't ever wear a patterned shirt because what happens is the camera can't handle it, and it looks kind of like it's moving around. So anyway, yeah. All right. Next up. All right. Persona non grata wrote, "Hello, Chris, from one of your MBA students in Italy and Germany. Thank you. Hello. Hope you're doing well. How do you deal when you receive pay raise requests from your collaborators?" Okay. Okay, so you mean if somebody working for you is asking for a raise? Yeah. Let me know. Clarify the question because I want to answer it properly for you. Thanks. Tony 2 times. How are you, Tony? Tony is from Montreal originally. He lives in Toronto. His fiance, you're probably married now, is at Blake's, a great law firm in Toronto. He's from Montreal originally, which means he's a huge Toronto Maple Leafs fan, right? Not the Habs? Yeah, I know. Just kidding. So T wrote, I finally got promoted, Chris. Awesome. Congratulations. Mazel tov. I'm happy for you, man. I asked multiple times, as you said. Good. I also applied some Chris Voss stuff. Thank you. You're most welcome. And then you wrote here, although I know you think I should open my own company someday and take on my employer. Yeah, someday. I love that. You wrote someday there too. I love it. You want to grow personally so one day you can turn your idol into your rival. Yeah. Awesome. Dude, I'm happy for you. And for those of you that want to, and look, you don't have to take any of my courses at all, but if you want to, what you can do is, oops, sorry, ignore that. I pushed the wrong button. But if you want to, what you can do is go to my website, okay? And then you can, you go here and you could search on promotion, okay? Like right there. Get that propaganda out of the way there. Yeah. Search on the word promotion right here. And go to video answers from Chris, asking for a promotion. How do you get a promotion? Interview better. All that stuff. There's just I have over 10,000 questions I've answered live on the air over the past couple of years. It's true. It's crazy. And so I put it all here. It's indexed for you. And also in my MBA Degree Program and contents, if you're subscribed to any of the courses, you can get all that stuff here as well. So yeah, I had a lot of fun nerding out on that. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Colin Hodge, and the librarian at my high school was Mrs. Hodge in Canada. I remember that. Yeah, she was cool. So Colin Hodge wrote, by the way, is the MBA program all-encompassing, or are there specializations like finance, marketing at some point? Yeah, it's all-encompassing. It's all-encompassing. There are 5 categories in it, 5 groups of classes. Okay, there's entrepreneurship, sales, marketing, and communications, finance and accounting, economics management and strategy, and personal growth. Now, to pass and get the degree, all you have to do is get over 50%. What does that mean? Well, there's 100 classes, and after each class, there's a very short quiz. So all you have to do is take half the quizzes and get over 50% on them. And I set it up that way because I kind of wanted to, I think of myself like a waiter. Hopefully I'm a okay waiter with good food. And when you go to a restaurant, you choose 1 or 2 things from the menu, but not everything. And so I provide you with a menu of what you want to focus on. You don't have to take all the classes at all. Yeah. And I'm adding tons of new stuff every single year. So this year, I think I'm adding about 20 hours of new content this year in terms of advanced topics on real estate, options, etc. And if you're signed up, you'll notice that there's no class 89. Right? I left that as a placeholder for a massive amount of content on options, derivatives, etc. And I'm going to explain it in a fun way as well. You guys will love it. Yeah. Or your money back. You can sign up today, take the whole damn thing, and get your money back within 30 days. All right. Next up, Mr. Nobody wrote, Chris, I want to learn blockchain development. What language should I learn? Like Solidity, Haskell, or a Reach language? Yeah. I don't know. To be honest. What I would do is take one of Kirill's courses, do a search on Udemy on blockchain, and he runs circles around me. I'm not as techy as he is. Yeah. I know what I don't know. Next up, Mitt wrote, I don't care about what my neighbor thinks of me. Awesome. Yeah, and that was with this that thing I did earlier, the exercise. And I noticed there was a bit of a lag, by the way, when I was writing here, and so I got to fix that. And so if you guys are curious, the product is called Gaomon. In one day I'll show it to you. It's just this cheap big monitor it's a screen. It's not a computer, and you can write on it with this pen. And what they do, it ships with, it's kind of silly, but it ships also with this, which looks kind of, I don't know, Avengers-ish cool. So you don't mess up the screen, whatever. Yeah, it's fun. Trying to push the goalposts out and teach in different ways. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Mitt wrote, why are tech skills exaggerated instead of people skills by most companies? Yeah. I don't know, but I think that people skills is more important because if you can sell and connect with people, you can make a lot more money and be much more successful than if you're just a brain on a stick that's a coder. Yeah. All right. And then Pralamesh wrote, you're the best, Chris. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Next up, we got Dennis, who wrote, by the way, I must say, I really like your outfit. It gets better every week. I'm looking forward to what you'll wear next week. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I've got a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So I'm kind of, I don't know. I want to. The old webcast is getting kind of stale, so I'm trying to push the goalposts out and be a little bit different. Yeah. Oh, by the way, very, very soon I'm going to be announcing. I'm going to ask you all a question, and whoever answers the question correctly will get the $999 MBA degree program for free. Okay, so it'll come before we wrap up. Yeah. All right. And then Amit wrote, nice intro video, looks very effective. Thank you. And thank you to Adad for making the video of it, and for Matt Lacuse, my wonderful chief creative officer. He's awesome, my partner here, for putting it together and all that stuff too. Yeah. Thank you. And I did that actually when I was over in the Czech Republic. Yeah, recording trailers. And I rented a data center there as well for the crypto course and stuff. Yeah. which is fun. I reinvest a lot. Yeah. And if you have your own company, like I think what's better, instead of investing in the stock market, it's investing in yourself. Because if you invest in the stock market, maybe you get like, I don't know, a 5-bagger in over a couple decades. But if you invest in yourself, it's a quadrillion bagger. Yeah. All right. Next up, Roberto wrote, how do you decide on when you should use or have a hot wallet compared to a cold wallet? Yeah, no, it's a fantastic question. Yeah. So for those who are not familiar with wallets in cryptocurrency land, the bottom line is this. A hot wallet is one that is connected to the internet always, right? It needs power to be on, hence the word hot. Like Coinbase. You have to go to coinbase.com or use the mobile app Coinbase to use that. It's a hot wallet. A cold wallet is a wallet that doesn't have to be connected to the internet all the time. Like one of those little USB wallets, like by a company called Trezor, which is Bulgarian for vault. One of my students told me, like Trezor or Ledger Nano, right? They're cold wallets because they don't always have to be plugged in your computer. You can take them all out. The best way to think about which ones to use are as follows. So you have a checkings account and a savings account. The checkings account you usually use with your bank when you want to spend money, but the savings account is better because it has slightly higher interest rate. So think of a hot wallet, like Coinbase, as your checking account. And a cold wallet, like Trezor or Ledger Nano, those USB ones, a cold wallet, like your savings account. Yeah. And thank you, Vishnu, for that comment. Thank you. Next up, D. Yerman. Every time I see it, I think of David Yerman. My wife likes she bought a fake David Yerman ring years ago, some jeweler, right? So D. Yerman wrote, Chris, good morning, and thanks for the email. You're most welcome. My wife says she likes the blue buttons today. Thank you. I got you on the background listening to the great question. Thanks, everyone, for the great questions. I echo that as well. Thank you, everyone, for the great questions. Thank you. Thank you. I tried to match the buttons, man. Yeah, I tried to do it, to match this coat. The problem is this thing is linen, right? And so if I scratch my head once, everything is wrinkled. Yeah. It's all right. And I'm wearing track pants, okay? I'm being honest. Okay. Like Sporty Spice. Okay. All right. And then Sachin wrote, I want free MBA class. Yeah. So I'm going to ask the question really, really soon. And if you answer it first, then you win. Yeah. It's coming soon. All right. Andres said the same thing as well. Yeah. So Ahmed wrote, if I never care about anything that anybody thinks, what do you think would be the best way to be able to analyze the feedback that you get about your work? Yeah. No, you have to be objective as well, right? So you do get feedback, right? Like for me, I don't care what people think of my appearance, but it's interesting to hear people ask or say things about what I'm wearing now. And, last week I wore a shirt, or a couple weeks ago, that kind of, I don't know, there's patterns on it, so it made the camera look a little bit off. It's constructive feedback, right? From a continuous improvement perspective. Yeah. All right. But by the way, if you guys get criticized at work by people that you work with or your boss, and you're like, this is so unfair. That is a bogus comment, not fair. I want you to channel that frustration and love it. Because unjustified criticism is nothing more than a disguised compliment. I have to say that again. Unjustified criticism is nothing more than a disguised compliment. So bring it on. That's what you got to think to yourself. And as you get more and more successful, if you're not getting criticized unfairly, then you haven't made it big enough yet. And so when somebody criticizes you unfairly, I want you to think, thank you. You're so insecure for that comment or whatever it is, right? And I'm talking about office politics. So, and if you're frustrated at work, I say good. And I say it with love in my heart, because that will force you to get a better job, and you can take my complete job course for free to do that. Or it'll force you to start your own company. And if I can help you do that, get a better job or start your own company, then I've served my purpose. Yeah. And you can take my complete job course for free, as I mentioned earlier as well. All right. Next up, and if I miss any questions, paste it again, please. I read everything. I'm fully transparent. Abdur wrote here, hi, Chris, to be honest, I like the way you deliver in your financial analyst course, and I'm working on it on a daily basis. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. It was fun. It was fun. Yeah. And the trailer for that one, we rented a floor in some building in Prague as well, which was fun. Yeah. And I was extraordinarily sick during that trailer, so I had to mouth over everything. They put makeup on me and everything to make sure I didn't look sick. I push myself too hard sometimes. Yeah. All right. But pain is temporary. It's all up here. Okay. Next up, Abel wrote here, hey, Chris, good morning. Good morning to you too. I took a couple of your courses at Udemy and they're very helpful. Are you in the process of making a new course for Udemy? Yeah, a couple this year. Yeah. So, and I'm going to be doing a couple every year forever. So one of them is called the Complete Options Derivatives course. And the other one's called the Complete Real Estate course. And they both come out in the second half of this year. Yeah. All right. Ashira wrote, hi, Chris. Hey, can you please share a link of everything you're providing for free? As a teeny tiny boy, I don't have any money to spend. It's useless to convince my parents. Yeah. So let me show you. So there's a couple things you can get for free. The first one is you go to About Chris Power Search, and you can click here to get this for free here. Okay, this here is my complete job course, and it was actually the only course I ever offered with a lifetime guarantee. I'm giving it away for free because so many people have gotten the job of their dreams by taking this. So you can check that out. What you can also do is you can actually go. Let's go back to my homepage. Go here, click on this link here, and let me do this in incognito so that it doesn't show me logged in. I think that will work. Yeah. So if you click on this one here, I hope it's working for you guys there on the webcast. But if you click on this one, what you do is you click here on View All Products, okay? And then when you go here to View All Products, what you can do is you can scroll down, okay? And you'll see that there are some free courses here. It is working. Okay, good. I see a bit of a delay in the webcast. I see it's working. Okay. But when you scroll down here, there's a course. Here it is here. Yeah. This here, it's an entire MBA in one course. It has Hindi subtitles, but it's all in English. So you can check that one out if you want to. That's free. The jobs course is free. I gave you guys the link earlier. I have another course called How to Vlog on YouTube, which is free. And then I have a bunch of other free ones in here somewhere as well. So check it out. And if you have questions, as always, please let me know, and thank you. All right. Cool. All right. David is saying, hello, Chris. Hey, man. Hope you're doing well, brother. Ashira wrote, I'm hungry to learn a lot of stuff. Yeah. And what you can also do, if you're hungry to learn a lot of stuff, you don't want to pay for any of my courses, you get a lot of this stuff for free. Because I've had over 10,000 questions that I've answered over YouTube in the past couple of years. It's true. So you can do a search here on anything, right? So you're like, dude, what's an income statement? Do a search, okay? And then it comes up here. And then you go to video answers from Chris. And I was trying to be cool. I wrote, how does an income statement work and why is depreciation so dope? Like here's an old man trying to be cool. I'm not cool. I'm groovy. But anyway, you can go through this stuff here. And if you've signed up for my courses or MBA degree, you can click here to get access to, yeah. So, and if you have questions about that, let me know. I'm pretty excited about it. It's called Power Search. We just deployed it, and great job to Matt, who's my Chief Creative Officer, for doing a great job on the trailer for it. Yeah. All free and all fun. Okay, Abdur wrote, I'm basically an IT guy. And I'm working hard to change my career towards hedge funds. Any words or suggestions on my way forward? Yeah. So in Silicon Valley, we always say it's easier for an engineer to become a finance person than it is for a finance person to become an engineer, right? And so what I would do is I would leverage your engineering roots, okay, your IT roots, to be able to get your foot in the door at a hedge fund. Okay. So you might have to initially work in the back office on IT support. And then eventually you can move to the front office, to trading, investing, whatever it might be. Or you can start looking at artificial intelligence-based algorithms and algorithmic investing, so to speak, and join a big firm like I used to work at called Citadel, where they have hundreds and hundreds of people that work in technology that are brilliant investors, that sort of thing. But it's all going to come down to networking for you. Okay, so take that job course for free. You'll run circles around the competition. You'll be able to network a lot. You'll see. Yeah. And also, when you take that job course that I showed you for free, what you're going to do is it's going to help you create a brand new and better LinkedIn profile so that you can get more recruiters searching for you. But you got to be offensive and less defensive and set up a ton of informational meetings. And I promise you, eventually it'll work. Okay. All right. Next up, Petit Homme is saying, speaking of Petit Homme, I got to have my petit déjeuner, my small lunch here. Yeah. All right. Petit Homme wrote here, Hi Chris, Waldring from Haiti. Bonjour. Je vous fais la grasse matinée ce matin. Thank you for exceptional teaching to empower leaders and entrepreneurs around the world. Thank you, Walter. I appreciate it. God bless you. Thanks. Next up, Melly622 is saying, Hi Chris, I'm from Hungary. So is George Soros, I think, as well. Yeah. George, and then you wrote here, do you have a useful tip for somebody who lost their job for blowing the whistle in finance? God bless you, man. How do you explain that in interviews? I really like your courses, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, and Melly, take my when you take my complete job course for free, and I showed you guys the links earlier, I show you how to answer any question and turn any weakness into a strength. Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're ethical, right? You're very, very ethical. But at the same time, maybe you're worried that people are going to think, well, I'm not as loyal as I should be. I agree with you, though. I'm on your side. So I would get a lot of informational meetings and explain yourself in those meetings and explain exactly what happened. Right? There's something incredibly unethical that occurred, and you had to say something. You had to say something because you really care about the brand of the company you work at and the integrity of the brand as well. And if you want, what you can do is disclose to me, totally your call, exactly what happened. And I can help you phrase it in a certain way that will turn a weakness into a strength. Yeah. Okay, good for you, though. Next up, Asanga is saying, Hi, Chris. I don't know if this question was asked above. What do you think of Bill Gates' divorce? Yeah. I mean, it's tragic. I believe that this never comes off. But I suppose if you're going to get divorced, doing it when your kids are older and they've left the house, it's less difficult, so to speak. Yeah. I saw the same media stuff you saw, in terms of, Melinda in 2019. She started working on getting the paperwork done then, and there's other things I've read as well, which I don't believe. I think Bill Gates is a good human being. Yeah. And so is Melinda. God bless them for what they've done. But I will say it must be hard, man. Like marriage is hard enough. I'm humble to say I have the best wife ever. Christine, she's great. It's hard enough. But trying to work with your spouse day in, day out and travel the world with them, like he did with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, it can be tough, man. It can be tough. Like I like kind of separation of church and state, so to speak, where you keep your personal life separate from work life. There can be a lot of tension in work, and that can be brought into the household, your personal life as well. I don't know what happened with Bill and Melinda, but it's tough. It's tough working with your spouse. Yeah. And by the way, never ever date anybody from work, ever. Unless you're confident this is your soulmate. Otherwise, one or both of you will end up losing your job eventually. Okay. All right. And then Vishnu wrote, true, electric vehicles do charge from the electricity grids, which are still polluting the environment. So there might be something else behind the decision. I think there is. Yeah. And Kunal wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Likewise, hope you're doing well, buddy. Kunal Jain. And I went to school, actually, with a guy named Ricky Jain, or Rakesh Jain. Smart guy. He owns a private equity firm on the East Coast now. Yeah. Went to high school with him. Yeah. Good dude. Next up, Naman wrote, if Jeff Bezos is too complacent regarding his Amazon company, as I now suppose a company is going downward spiral per your graph, what are your thoughts on it? Yeah. So, yeah, I am a bit worried. But he is still engaged. He's not leaving Amazon. He's just named the new CEO. And it was a brilliant decision to name Andy Jassy as the new CEO because Andy Jassy created Amazon Web Services, which is the real profit driver for Amazon longer term. But yeah, it does worry me. If Jeff Bezos stepped away entirely, then I'd probably want to short Amazon. Because Amazon, and he hasn't stepped away entirely yet. But what happens is this. A brilliant founder starts a company, and she or he does not give a damn about politics because they started the company. And so the founder innovates and takes risks, creates products that work and products that don't, like the Kindle Fire or that phone just didn't work for Amazon. But many other products worked out incredibly well. They took risks. And the board lets them do whatever they want because they're the founder. And then when the founder leaves, the board is short-term focused and holds the CEO accountable on a 3 to 6 month basis, meaning quarterly. And if they miss a couple quarters in a row, they could be gone. And so what happens is when a founder checks out and leaves a company entirely, if you're a senior executive, all you're focused on doing is climbing that corporate ladder. And if you take a risk to start a new product or a new service in that company and you fail, you're done. So there's no point to try to innovate. And complacency and red tape settles in, and eventually that company goes into secular decline. Yeah. So the bottom line is that when or if Jeff Bezos were ever step away completely from Amazon, then I think it'd be a short. Yeah. All right. Next up, Asanga wrote here, Chris, what's happening in India is very unfortunate. Can you start charity donations to send Indian on your chosen charity? With your audience, you can raise money. Thank you. Yeah. So what I've done a lot over the past year is I've given away a ton of courses. And what I've done is I've asked people to make a donation to the charity of their choice. I don't monitor it. The charity of their choice to help stop the spread of COVID. That's what I've done. Right. And I think it's the best way too, because you get the message out. You have a lot of people download the course for free. And then a lot of very ethical people that get the course will make donations if they can. Yeah. All right. And I channel a lot of my profits into scholarships as well. And this school we're building in Rwanda, which is going to be done actually not too long from now. Yeah. And if you're curious more about that, you can go to my website, and one of the menus you'll see Project Magoo. Yeah. All right, next up, Mr. Invisible wrote here, I want to start my company, but in my country, like you've been told, that you have to work for other people, and most of them will only chase money if they want to start a business. What should I do? Yeah. I would say that, look, if you have the entrepreneurial bug in you, right, and I'm going to swear for the first time, so earmuffs, there's nothing worse than spending the rest of your life being someone else's bitch. And it's so frustrating working for somebody else under their thumb if they're pricks, right? A lot of people are great managers, right? And that's not the case. But if you feel frustrated, I want you to write a ton of business plans on the side. And you can take my complete business plan course, or you can take my MBA Degree Program where I walk you through the venture capital boot camp in the 3rd semester. I want you to complete business plans. And don't start a company until you complete the entire business plan. And most business plans you write, you'll never finish anyway, because you'll teach yourself that maybe they're not the best business models. But when you do finish a business plan, then you launch your company while you're working for somebody else, if you're allowed to. So how do you know when to quit and do your own thing full time? The way you know when to quit is when your side hustle, the past 6 months in your side hustle, you made more money than you'll make in the entire year. And that's being very conservative too. Yeah. And the reason I say 6 months is because one data point doesn't make a trend, meaning 1 month. And if you have a great November in your company, well, that's the biggest holiday shopping month of the year, right? You can't annualize that. That's why I say 6 months trailing. Yeah. All right. And RJ wrote here, authenticity, confidence, and charisma are a winning combination. faith definitely takes off the weight of worrying. I liked how you shared that. My pleasure. My pleasure. God already knows what's going to happen. And that puts me at ease. Okay, cool. All right. So we just lost a ton of viewers. Curious as to why, but that's okay. It's all right. So what I'm going to do now is, I guess what I'll do is I'll give away the $999 MBA degree. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask a question, and whoever answers the question properly, okay, the first person answers the question properly, will win the $999 MBA degree program. Only one person is getting, whoever answers the question properly. And while you guys are watching that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break, and you'll see a little video of part of my MBA degree program where I do a case study on Nintendo, and this is the economics management and strategy part of the MBA. So here's the question, and while I'm gone, it'll be a 1-minute video. Type the answer. The question is this. When you're looking at financial statements, as I taught earlier today, how do you calculate what bookings are? I'll be right back. Give me a second. Check, check, check. There you go. Thank you for your patience. Took a little break there. All right. Let's see who got the question right. Here we go. Oh, 72 people on the call. Okay, great. All right. Here we go. Give me 1 second. The winner is... Hold on a second. All right, so right here, let me think about this. The first one is, Ashira wrote, I asked what is bookings. And Ashira wrote, revenue is plus what you sold but didn't deliver. That's acceptable. That's acceptable. First I wanted revenue plus the change in deferred revenue. But that's acceptable. So congratulations. Ashira won this. So what I want you to do, please, is send me a LinkedIn message. And I'm so sorry if I don't respond to every message I get from people. I get lots of inbounds. But I will search for you. Ashira, send me a LinkedIn message, and I will provide you with a coupon for the $999 MBA degree program. And congratulations. All right, cool. Excellent, excellent. All right, let's move on to the next question. All right. Next question is from Kartik. Hey, Kartik, hope you're doing well. And give me 1 second, guys. Okay, hold on a second. Yeah. Kartik wrote here, what do you think about the company Herbalife Nutrition? Yeah, I don't know much about it. I know that I know a bunch of hedge funds that shorted it and did extraordinarily well. I'm not up to date on it, though. I'm sorry. Okay, moving on. Next question is from Gregory. Hey, Gregory, how are you, man? I hope you're doing well. Gregory is in my MBA degree program, I think. He worked at Boeing for, I think it was more than 40 years. It's a great company, man. Great. So Gregory wrote, Chris, how should individual investors think about the cost of liquidity? Smaller volume stocks beat high volume stocks from 1965 to 1995, for instance. Yeah. So what I would say is a lot of hedge funds went belly up in 2008 because they own stocks that don't trade that much. And there's this saying that illiquid stocks own you rather than vice versa in a down market. So what do I recommend doing? So let me actually show you how to look at liquidity. So I always recommend investing in companies where you can get out within a day if possible. So let's go here to finance.yahoo.com. And then what we'll do is I'll type in a stock that's very liquid. IBM, which is industry's biggest mistake, or I've been moved, or itty bitty machines. So what you do here is you look at how much it trades daily, right? So let me go here to statistics. We can look at the daily volume. They have it here? Oh my God. Summary. Here it is here. Okay, great. So right here, you look at the average volume on IBM, okay? So it's 5.8 million shares, right, on average, times $140 or so. So yes, it's very liquid. We can get in and out quickly. Big mutual funds can get in and out quickly if need be. So I would never buy a position in any company where you can't get out within one day. So if you're looking at a smaller penny stock, I'll type some random quote here. See if that's a small company. See here, okay? So this company here, you can tell it's illiquid because it's not really trading very much here, okay, in terms of the chart. So here, the average volume is 5 shares, right? So say the volume is higher, but the average volume is 5 shares. And so if you take 5 shares times $40, let's say, right, that means $200 per day. So if you're going to invest more than $200 in a stock, don't do it. Because what's going to happen is you'll move the stock, you'll drive it up when you're buying, and then when you're trying to sell it, you'll drag it down as well. So always be careful of liquidity when it comes to investing. Remember, illiquid stocks own you in a down market, not vice versa. All right. Next up, Mitt is asking, does the government's action affect basic supply and demand? Yes, absolutely. So if governments were to change interest rates by getting rid of currency, right? When they take money out of circulation, what happens and they do that by selling bonds. So if you buy a bond, right, from the government, I give you the bond, and then you give me money, and I take some of that money out of circulation. So what happens is because there's less money out there, the price of money goes up, right? Meaning interest rates go up. And so if interest rates go up, it impacts supply and demand of everything. And so in the early 1980s, the head of the Federal Reserve, a guy named Paul Volcker, what he did was he raised interest rates to 20% because inflation was brutal in America. And because of that, demand for everything went down, or most products in general. Yeah. So yes, the government can affect basic supply and demand. Okay. All right. Next question is, Harsh is saying Biden is removing 1031 exchanges. What are your thoughts on this? I don't know. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't even know what 1031 exchange means. Let me do a quick search to give you the answer in real time, though. Actually, that's not. I don't want to leave you hanging there. All right, so let's go here. Biden 1031 exchange. Okay, he's going after real estate investors used to buy and sell properties without having to pay capital gains taxes. Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be terrible. Yeah. So I believe that, part of the allure of the American dream is to be able to buy a house, nice white picket fence or whatever it is. And in the United States and in many countries, the way it works is when you sell your house and buy another house, if you make money on your house, you don't pay taxes. And it's a way to incentivize people to own their own house. If you get rid of that, then I think it's an awful thing. I like tax-based incentives. Like in Canada, you can deduct, or you can actually get a tax credit if you sell your house for more than you bought it for. That sort of thing. I remember that growing up in Canada. Same thing in America. In America, they've started lowering the amount of money you can make on a house profit-wise without paying taxes. But I believe in small government. I'm a libertarian. I vote Republican or Democrat depending on who the candidate is. But I believe in very, very low taxes and small government as well. Yeah. So I would not like that at all if they got rid of 1031 exchanges. Thank you. I learned so much from my students based on their questions. Next up, Tenzil wrote, I really like your color combination. Lots of love. Thank you. I appreciate it. I like it, man. I think it's good. I matched the blue with here at my eyes. And here, my eyes are bluish green, which is why I can't do green screen, because my eyes look all messed up. So I have to thank my Irish grandmother, for the green eyes. I miss you, Grandma. I love you. Yeah. All right. And so my background, by the way, I'm Canadian, proud Canadian, live in America, proud to be in America too. But my dad is Egyptian, and my mom is half Lebanese, and the other half is a mixture of Scottish, Irish, French. I'm a mutt. I'm a global citizen. Yeah. And my kids are even more, they have more culture too, because my wife is half Palestinian, the other half is Greek. Yeah. Which means we have awesome food here. Yeah. She's a great cook. Sometimes. Yes, she is. Okay. Next up, Mitt wrote, that's good humor. Thank you. Appreciate it. Igor wrote the same thing as well. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right, next up, we got Nathan, who's saying, hey, Chris, hope you're doing great. Likewise. My question is, do you think genuine cryptocurrencies, which have good use cases, will stay and be valuable in the future? I do. Look, I believe that most cryptocurrencies are absolute crap, but there are many or some that are great investments. And when I created my cryptocurrency course, when I first started making it, and I worked day and night in this thing, man, for like six months of my life. When I first started making it, I was a 7 out of 10 positive on cryptos. By the end, I was 3 out of 10 positive. But I still believe that there are lots of cryptos you can make a lot of money on. But I think there's a lot of junk out there as well. And I did so much research on that cryptocurrency course. I hired this guy to proofread everything. Right? I go all out, as you know. And what happened was the NSA knocked on my door. And at first I was like, scared. And the NSA knocked on my door because they were doing a reference check on this person. I'll never name that person. They were doing a reference check on that person because that person was so money, I think they hired him. Yeah. All right. But I do think cryptos will be relevant longer term. I just think that a lot of countries are going to outlaw it. You know, it'll happen. It'll happen because there's a big threat to national security when it comes to cryptocurrencies, as I talked about before. Yeah. And the more left-wing, pathetic governments that are communists will be the first ones to outlaw it. Yeah. Yes, I'm a capitalist. All right. Next up, Anurag is saying, hey, Chris, greetings. I hope you're doing well, buddy. What are some of the roles and companies that you'd recommend in the finance domain for good work-life balance where employees don't burn out? Yeah, it's a great question. So most jobs in finance are sales. And the best job in finance for work-life balance, I think, is private wealth management. Now, on one end of the spectrum, you've got investment banking, which is brutal for your health, man. You work 100 hours a week, you hate it. Investment banking is just, it's not for everybody. And if you do it before you have kids, please. On the other end of the spectrum is private wealth management, where you're managing money for high net worth investors. And it's the best job in finance because it's the only job where you're allowed to leave the bank you work at and take your clients with you. And so people that work in private wealth management, you know, they start at companies like Wells Fargo, go to Goldman, go to UBS, whatever, to get a better deal, and they take their clients with them. And it's all relationship based as well. So yes, there's some whining and dining that goes on, but it's your own book, your own portfolio, and you work the hours you want to work. All right, next up, Anurag wrote, what did you do with your venture capital firm? Yeah, so I sold out of almost all my venture capital investments, and I'm focused entirely on my students. All right. Michael, how are you? Michael is from Northern California here as well. He lives up in Sonoma, He's a great guy. He started an amazing not-for-profit. He's a very good human being. Michael, thank you very much. And Michael, thanks for your support on that charity of mine as well. I appreciate it. So Michael wrote, good morning, Chris. I hope you and your family are well. Likewise. I've been watching every week and continue to absorb your wisdom and love for serving others. Thank you. I appreciate it. We're all here to serve others. Yeah. And Michael said, just want to say hi and thank you for all you do and for being such a great example for loving God and loving others. Love you, brother. Thank you, man. I love you more. Love you more. And it was so awesome doing that call with you that one time as well. God bless you, brother. God bless you more because you do more for charity and help people than I do. Yeah. Thank you. We're all in this together. All right. Next up, we got Vishnu who wrote, I love the way how you give value to the customer, Mr. Chris. Thank you. It's great to see you being very customer centric. Thank you. And I believe that a company is only as good as its customer service. Like Amazon's a great company because they have unbelievable customer service. So I believe in that. I believe that profitability and customer service go hand in hand. There's a 100% correlation in the long run. And if you want, do a search on Jeff Bezos' interview in the 1990s on YouTube where he talks about customer service. Yeah. And it's fun that way too. There has to be a higher purpose. And Vishnu wrote, I'm too young to bless. No, you're not. You're never too young to bless. But this value will surely come back to you in the form of greater good. Thank you. And I love that emoji. And God bless you. Thank you, Vishnu. Appreciate it. Ginny, how are you? Ginny is one of my amazing MBA degree students from Vietnam. She is awesome. She lived in Australia for years as well. She has her own company teaching English online. She's also worked in the financial services sector as an equity analyst. And Ginny just published a book on Amazon. You can search for her name and find it. It's great. I bought it. It's wonderful. So Ginny wrote, hey, Chris, how are you? Hope you and your family are well. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for that YouTube comment you left as well. I got a reply to that as well. Thank you. And you sent me an email as well, I think, and I started. So I'll get back to you. Thank you. Thank you. You're the best. All right, next up, Will Higgs wrote, Chris, if I pay for the MBA program, do I just pay the difference for the upgrade to get mentoring as I paid the full $9.99? And then you wrote, I paid $3.99. Yeah, that's what you do. So here's how it works. I'll show you. So let's go to my website here. Okay. And let's go here. Yeah. So if you go to my website, and by the way, there's a pop-up for if you guys want to get, I think it's $400 off. Here it is here. Yeah. Click here to get, and it expires tomorrow if you're interested. 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. Yeah. But the way it works is if you scroll down here, if you buy this version, whatever amount you pay for it will be a deduction if you want to upgrade to gold and platinum. Okay. And gold and platinum, the next class, the class is sold out. The next class starts in January of January 10th, 2022. So if you buy silver, or if you bought it, whatever amount you spent on it, you get a deduction. So if you spent $500 on silver, then you're going to pay $9.99 for gold. If you spent $500 on silver, you're going to pay $19.99 for platinum. Okay, and these start again next January. They sell out pretty quickly. So if you have subscribed to silver and you want to get this, you're front of the line always. Yeah. And there's a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee as well. And if you have more questions, let me know. Thanks. Okay, cool. All right. Next up, Igor wrote, Chris, my cousin does stand-up comedy. I think I'll have to let him know about you. Maybe you can be his opening act. Thank you. Thank you. No, I love it. My humor is it's dad humor. It's awful dad humor. Yeah. Like cringeworthy dad humor. Like my kids. Like, because my kids are being, they're at home, school because of Zoom and COVID and all that stuff. And when I come in, they angled their computers a certain way so I cannot be seen. Yeah. Yeah. And Andrew, he's 17 now, God bless him. I was teasing him and I went outside his room through the window and I was dancing like this. And he got so mad at me. Yeah. So, yeah. Kind of like when, if they go to parties, whatever, I'm sure they'll ask me to stop the car a block away from the house. Yeah. All right. And actually, I wrote a song. It's a Kanye West song. I used it, and the lyrics were going to be me rapping about teaching something. And my youngest son, Dylan, walked in, and he saw me doing it. His jaw dropped, and he said, "Dad, if you do that on the air, I will never talk to you again." Yeah. I like Kanye. And I wear, because I get 20 or 30,000 steps a day, and on this treadmill, I wear these, the cheapest Yeezys you can find. That's an old man trying to be cool. Yeah. All right. And then Let's Talk Beat said, "Great story about India. Thanks for sharing." You're most welcome. Peyton is one of my amazing MBA students as well. He is in the United States Navy. Thank you for serving. And he lives in San Diego. And he started this great company. And when he lets me talk about it, I will on the air here. He's still working on it. I think it's going to be big. It's going to be huge. Yeah. And he started with his brother as well. So Peyton wrote, "You're the best, Chris. Hope all is well. You inspire me." You inspire me too, brother. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Peyton. Oh, and Peyton's got a great YouTube channel. So everybody do a search on Peyton's name here, and you'll see his YouTube channel. It's great. He's just getting started, but it's amazing. And I'm not an arrogant guy at all, but I'm a very good judge of talent. And I know that Peyton is going to be massive. Yeah. He's a good dude too. All right, next up, we got Jose. Jose is saying, "Great. Thank you for sharing. You're most welcome. Great to have you, Jose." Josh is saying, "Hi, Chris. I find myself having lots of ideas and doing nothing with them. Do you have any suggestions to help drive myself?" Yeah, I do. And so I've answered a lot of questions about this in the past. I'm going to show you a great resource. So if you go to my website and then go to Power Search, you can search for motivation. And then there's, please work. Here it is. Whew. Yeah. So go to video answers from Chris. How do you keep motivation? How do you stay motivated? Not motivated? What do you do? All that stuff. So I have 10,000 answers here to all the 10,000 questions I've answered in the past couple of years. So you can search here, or you can actually jump right to my courses and the topics in my courses where I discuss those topics. Another thing I recommend is what you do is you create a daily schedule. Okay. And if you search here, you'll find a daily schedule as well. Video answers from Chris. Yeah. And so here is the daily schedule I recommend you look at. This is one of my first webcasts here. And that coffee cup there says, "I survived another meeting that could have been an email." Yeah. So anyway, I recommend checking out this one here, a schedule. If there's a download you can download to help you schedule every single day, I promise you it helps. And it's free. Okay. All right. Next up, Alexei said, "What do you think about inflation fears in the United States?" Yeah. So I published a vlog that dropped yesterday at 9 a.m. Pacific time on inflation. I think it's a significant issue. It's so obvious it's an issue, and government officials are saying nothing to see here, don't worry, and they have to put on a brave face. I get it, but at the same time, it's obvious. The price of lumber is at an all-time high. Real estate prices are going through the roof. Speculative assets like NFTs and mini cryptos are at nosebleed levels. Stock market's near an all-time high. Everything is going up in price. You can't find chips anymore. You can't buy cars anymore because there's a shortage of chips. And so what's happened is the price on used cars has gone up 10% month over month in the past month. That's the biggest sequential increase in history. Prices of everything are rising. Yes, inflation's a big deal. And eventually what's going to happen is the government's going to have to raise interest rates. And on last week's webcast, before the inflation report came out, I begged everybody to please go and refinance your house or look into it if you haven't done so while rates are still somewhat low. So how do you monitor rates? Well, instead of reading articles from media, what you do is you go to the United States Treasury website, okay? And you look at what's called the daily yield curve. Let's go there together. And so what you see here are the rates on 1 month government securities, 2 months, all that stuff, all the way up to 30-year. And you can see that that rates have been creeping up, Okay, so this is May 3rd. Okay, May 3rd, the 30-year, which is how you do your mortgage, right? It was 2.3%. Now it's 2.4%. They're creeping up slowly, and it's going to get a lot worse. So if you haven't already refinanced this year, please call your mortgage broker and try to refinance your mortgage if you can get a better rate, of course. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Naman wrote, "Hi, Chris. I love your programs. Thank you. Appreciate it. Your MBA programs are great. I live in India where my salary is less than $200 a month, and it'll be hardship to enroll in the program. I hope to enroll someday." Thank you. It's times are tough. I do have that free course that's in Hindi. It's English with Hindi subtitles called An Entire MBA in One Course. And you can go to learn.harounventures.com to get that for free. Yeah. Okay, next up, Arun wrote, yes, Chris, Elon's tweet prompted me to ask. I like your answer. You're most welcome. About Bitcoin, yeah. And he did a great job on Saturday Night Live. And I vlogged about him earlier. Just do a search on my website to see my thoughts on it. I thought he did a great job. He really humanized himself as well at the beginning by standing there with his mother. She's incredibly well-spoken. She's gorgeous. Her accent is still South African. She's great. But he also said that he's the first host of Saturday Night Live with Asperger's. And I like that he did that because he raises awareness for Asperger's as well. And he humanized him as well. He was transparent. He was real, you know? But he wasn't the first person to host SNL with Asperger's. The first person was actually a cast member from the 70s and early 80s named Dan Aykroyd, a Canadian represent. Dan Aykroyd hosted in the early 2000s, and he also has Asperger's as well. But I thought Elon did a great job. The weird thing, though, was about that Saturday Night Live thing was that the better skits were at the end of the show. Usually they front run the better stuff. I thought the Nintendo one was funny where Elon was Wario, the character in court when Luigi was talking about how Mario got offed or something. I thought that was great. Yeah. And I thought the news segment was brilliant as well. And yes, that does influence me on my news show, of course. I've been watching Saturday Night Live for years. And the most brilliant thing about the show, the way it was written, was during the show, that rocket from China, the satellite, whatever, it crashed into the ocean. And during the news segment of the show, when Elon Musk was on it, Michael J., the newscaster, he said Elon Musk is only doing the show because he wants to have an alibi to say that he was not the person that did that rocket fall, right? Which happened in real time. I thought it was clever. Yeah. All right, next question is from Naman. Why are federal banks of some countries think cryptocurrencies are a threat? Do they have a fear that they can replace official currencies? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so the biggest power of any country is the ability to print more of this stuff. And if people don't buy more of the currency or use more of it, then governments are done. How does that work? Well, a government, let's just say back in World War II, the American government had to raise a lot of money to fight, to fight in World War II. They had to make tanks and all that stuff. So what they did was they sold bonds. And this is a patriotic thing to do. And so Americans bought bonds, right, which had a small interest rate. And so when people buy bonds, I'm the government, okay, and you're consumers. When you buy bonds, I give you the bond. In return, you give me your money, okay? And I use some of this money to build tanks, whatever, and I take some of it out of circulation. And what happens is because there's less of that in circulation, like with any product, when supply goes down, price goes up. So the interest rate goes up. Now, if governments can't control money, the monetary policy, then what happens is they can't defend themselves. They can't build bridges, not walls, or anything like that. And they go bankrupt. So yes, cryptocurrencies are a big threat to national security, especially in command-oriented economies, the filth of communism. Those countries are the ones that have already banned cryptos. Yeah. Because they feel threatened. Because communism's a loser proposition anyway. All right. Next up, Naman wrote, do you think these movies replicate a similar work style of investment banks? Yeah. Anytime you have a movie about Wall Street, it's a little bit extreme. But yeah, in terms of working crazy hours, yeah, that's what investment banking is. And your buddies that get investment banking jobs that think they're so cool because they make a lot of money, they don't make a lot of money. They make the same amount of money you're making hourly. They just work crazy hours and they have no life. Yeah. If you're going to do investment banking, do it before you have a family. Yeah. And do it for a couple of years only. Yeah. All right. Next up, Paul is saying, hello, Chris. I'm doing your cryptocurrency course. Questions in mining with graphic cards, are they still profitable for beginner miners? Yeah. Yes. But it all depends on what the cost of electricity is kilowatt hour wise. And so you're based in Quebec, I think. So what you'd have to do is do a search to see what the cost per kilowatt hour is in Quebec to see if it makes sense. And let me do that right now with you, actually. Yeah. So, and I showed this earlier in today's call, but what you do is you do a search on kilowatt hour price in La Belle Province, Quebec. Okay. Holy crap. If that's right, dude, is that right? Dude, all right, call your electric company, Hydro-Quebec, and ask them if it's really 7 cents per kilowatt hour. If it is, you got to start mining Ethereum there. Yeah, and go back towards the beginning of today's call because I talked about how to mine Ethereum from scratch. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, all right. Okay, cool. And we got just 2 minutes left, and I gotta wrap up the call. And so, if you have questions I haven't answered, please join us next week as well, and I'll answer all questions as I always humbly try to do. Okay, next up, Naman wrote, "Be foolish, smart, and hungry, and at the end, it gets the job done." Absolutely, that's a great quote from Steve Jobs. And I end every webcast with a short video that I licensed from the Silicon Valley Historical Association. It's a Steve Jobs interview. No one is smarter than you. Next up, we have Anand, who wrote, "Yes, even I want to enroll in the program, but the price of the course is more. If it's affordable, I'll surely join the program." Thank you. And it's on sale today. If you go to my website, you'll see a pop-up. But you can always get some of my MBA stuff for free by just searching on my website. Right, I answer a lot of questions. But also, if you go to my school, learn.harounventures.com, I do have some free business courses there too. Thank you. Next question from Naman is, are quantitative analysts overrated? What are your views? Yeah. So I've got to wrap up the call. So this will be the last one that I say. I don't think that anything quantitative is ever overrated, because what happens is quite often you create a business decision or a company based on qualitative analysis or your gut, but you have to be able to quantify it. And so to give yourself even more credibility, you have to quantify things like the size of the total addressable market. You never want to start a company in a tiny market. So you want to quantify it. I think quantitative analysis is certainly underrated. And in my options course coming up soon, I'm teaching you all from scratch in a fun way, all about normal probability, logarithmic probability, as well as standard deviation, variance, theta, vega, gamma, and all this stuff. I know it sounds crazy complicated, and it is for me. But what I've done is I've got a new brand way to teach you how to do all this stuff. And and what I've also done is, if anybody wants to learn about finance, but they're kind of intimidated by all this stuff, what I recommend doing is, let me see if I can do this in real time. There is a product called Think or Swim that you can sign up for, and it's offered by TD Ameritrade. Okay, and TD Ameritrade is one of the best online brokerage firms. And what I'm going to show you might work in your country, it might not. If it doesn't work, if you want and if you're allowed to, set up a VPN, virtual private network. But what you can do is with Think or Swim, you can actually do paper money trading. Okay, so this is fake. So I'm going to show this to you, and then I'll wrap up the call. And I'm using this to teach a course coming up. And this looks a lot like a professional trading blotter as well. All right, so here it's coming. Here we go. Okay, So what you can do is, and I know a lot of this looks complicated. It's not going to be when I teach it to you guys later this year in my complete options course. And I'll even talk about this in the weekly call if you guys want, if there's demand for it. But basically, this will teach you, and this is a paper simulated trading, creating options, right? You can buy, and these are just dummy trades here that I've created. You can buy and sell puts, right, and calls, and you see what's in the money for calls and what's in the money for puts and all that stuff. And you could paper trade a portfolio of stocks, futures, options, etc., and look at a lot of different statistics and learn the markets this way. And I'll be using this also in my options course coming up. And for those of you in my MBA degree program, I'll be doing a much more thorough version of all this in class number 89, which I'll be adding soon. I'm going to be adding 10 to 20 hours of brand new content every year. And so if you've already purchased or are going to purchase my MBA degree program, you're grandfathered in. Any new content I ever create in the program, you'll get for free. You'll get for free because I want this MBA degree program to be the most current, up-to-date, state-of-the-art, humbly, MBA degree program on the planet. Okay, great. Now, there's a ton more questions. Please copy your questions and save them and ask me next Thursday. And so within a couple hours of this call being completed, my awesome staff, one of my employees, John Clee, who's from Rochester, who I met on my weekly call, what John Clee does within a couple hours of this call being completed is he goes to the description field of this YouTube video and he adds all the questions everybody has asked with clickable access, timecode access. You can get immediate answers to all the questions that people have asked. If you subscribe to my daily vlog, I will see you every day because my daily vlog drops every day at 9 a.m. Pacific time. If not, God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, stay happy, stay blessed. And I'll see you next Thursday and every Thursday starting at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you and God bless. And as always, I end with a quick video from Steve Jobs, which I think is quite inspirational, that I licensed.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.